Really? This is. I literally he could delay the class 1 minute.
What's happening?
No one had ever known. Hey, what's happening? I know we about being on time. This is one of the first time I wanted the old school colored people time, but I don't get that today. So, welcome back to another class of hope.
What's up, y'all?
Man, tonight's a discussion night. Sharisha, you're part of the discussion tonight. So, and so make sure you also bring in the folks online because we're going to have a lot of questions to ask and pose and to spark a dialogue on the questions and so forth and so on. Trying to catch up. We had some technical difficulties, but the College of Alameda in their warm heart actually sent, the vice president actually came down today and to check on us. And that was pretty damn dope. That was dope. Dope. Just it was nice to see that they let one of the big wigs actually looked out for us. That's a beautiful experience. Oh, okay. So you need me to slide over? I know that's what happens when you don't say. Let's just double check before we get started. That's okay. It's kind of normal. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Well, I lean because I'm black. You know what I'm saying? That's your problem. You got to learn to lean more. Anyway. So anyway. We got a lot to cover tonight. Well, a lot to discuss tonight, and the goal of this evening is not to introduce something new, but to dive further into the previous two classes, so we can make sure we have a little bit more ownership moving forward. My voice seems pretty strong, and I love my voice, but damn, it's strong. I feel like I'm standing in front of the White House about to give I have a dream speech to just make sure I'm cool. All right, don't turn me down where folks at home can't hear me either. Let's make sure there's some accuracy up in here, because I will pay you back later, Scott. So if I can't hear me, just know it's Scott's fault. Scott's over here. Anyway, so point is this. There's a lot to cover, a lot to discuss. Some interesting things happening in the news. Maybe we'll bring some of those conversations into some of those topics into the conversation. Our Democratic Party is a 27% approval rating. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Maybe I throw a little bit of that in there as well for some fun. But I'm gonna say this too. I signed a book by Malcolm Gladwell to everybody in the class, and some of you guys I'm not sure if you guys are really catching the systemic education and the macro education of that book. There's a lot of macro lessons and systemic lessons in that book. But also, too, I want us to get away from something I've said 1,000 times, but I think we should reiterate it as much as possible. Business is not a narrow subject. There's no such thing as business subject. Business is really a way of talking about multiple disciplines. Multiple disciplines. You don't get buff. You don't get, for example, let's say you want to train to run a marathon. You're not going to be very successful if the only thing you do to train to run a marathon is just run marathons, right? That's not how you train to run a marathon. You're going to have to go to the gym sometimes. You have to practice. You may have to go to do some form of stretching and yoga. You might have to practice all kind of resistance training. You might have to practice breathing techniques. You might have to practice swimming. You'll find that in order for you to improve your performance in a marathon, it requires multiple disciplines. The same thing with business. You can't just read business books. You got to read philosophy books, history books. You got to read fiction, nonfiction. You got to read a lot of stuff to really bring together multiple disciplines. A great business person has a wide angle lens, not a telephoto lens. They don't have a very narrow view on life. They don't tunnel. A lot of times when somebody goes to school for a PhD, a lot of times they become victimized by tunneling, right? They kind of look at the world through this very thin lens. So for the man with a hammer, everything's a nail, right? But when you're an entrepreneur, you can't afford a tunnel. This is why a lot of smart people who have very specific backgrounds come into the business world and do horrible because their thinking's too narrow. So, and a lot of you guys, because this is going to be kind of interesting. When you suffer from poverty or perceived poverty, I'm playing with that word even more. It is so easy for you to manipulate it for anything that releases the pressure of your perceived poverty. So because you want to escape poverty so bad, you want to triple down on every business book you can read because you're trying to escape. But it's not a discipline that serves that reactionary behavior. Unfortunately, it does. In order for you to be good at business, there's so many different disciplines you got to kind of engage. You don't have to master all of them, but you have to kind of know a little bit about a lot of them. Because as an entrepreneur, you really don't get a chance to have, it's not like business is like this pitcher is throwing all kind of speeds, all kind of change ups and curves. You don't know what's going to come your direction. And if you only know how to perform in one, have one swing or one technique, you're going to find that when certain things happen that you don't expect, which is all the time, you won't have the broad thinking to solve unforeseen problems, right? So this is why a lot of corporate people who train their whole life and worked in a certain industry, in a certain job for years, they walk into the entrepreneur world and they suck, right? Why there's a lot of people who got C's and never really was really good at one thing, but they're pretty broad knowledge, do really, really well as entrepreneurs, is because you're dealing with so many different disciplines that are coming across your table at the same time. One day you might see me studying econ. Next week you may see me studying psychology. Next week you may see me studying history. Next week you might see me studying system science. Next week you might hear me listen to storytelling. Next week you might see me studying art. Those are all part of the discipline that allows me to run my business, right? Even sometimes you'll see me practicing humility. Some weeks you'll see me practicing certain disciplines that allows me to be excellent at business. There's no such thing as studying business. Business is multiple disciplines converging at a single intersection. And then we call that a business. They call that business. So if you're just reading one kind of book, just reading econ books or tactical books or strategy books, you have to expand outside of that. You have to expand outside of that. Because even if you have excellent strategy, you're still victimized by your ability to transfer your strategy to your team for collaboration. And that means you have to learn different stories will help you even develop that. You can actually watch a solid hour of a great movie and develop language or stories to help you communicate complex ideas, right? We had a situation where I was telling my team, we were writing up a paper for our examining where we are as 510 Media and how we're going to communicate how to move forward as a company. And this was for an internal document. And I said, I don't like this language. I said, what do you mean? I said, the language is not reachable. It's fine for the people at this table, but as we span further and further beyond this table, the members who join this team, that language needs to be close enough to the ground where the chickens can get at it, where the everyday person, no matter what their grade level, can understand it, yet articulating this complex idea. So Scott called me back and he saw the movie. What was that movie? The Hustler? The Color of Money. And what was the phrase he used in Color of Money, the famous phrase? A student of human moves. So a student of what? So instead of saying we're 510 Media, a behavior science company, we're 510 Media, a student of human behavior, human moves. That's much more easier for the public can dance back and forth to help us seek out our opportunities. When we say 510 Media, behavior science branding firm that also deals with neuroscience, evolution science, and system science, most people go, I don't know what the fuck you just said. I don't even know how I can help you. I don't even know if I can network you into our system. But if you say, we are students of human moves, oh, okay, I can get that. I can process that. You mean say you study human behavior and you're a student of that? Yes, and that's how we serve our clients. Oh, I got that. It's easily to transfer that, right? That movie was like, I was explaining the idea and certain team members was like, I don't really see it. But Shama was helping me trying to bring the language down to the ground. And then he watches a movie and just lands it even smoother, right? I'm saying that there's multiple disciplines that offer those rewards. Every once in a while, break rank from what you study And that breaking of rank will enrich your core studies. Like I study history all the time. And history helps me understand contextually. So when everybody's screaming, oh my God, the building's on fire, I say, well, no, this is called a black swan and these things happen. And here are our choices, right? But if you don't study history, then the only thing you can do is respond to the social proof of everybody's emotions that's around you. You guys get that? That's kind of a cool thing, right? It's one thing. So let's move away from this idea that business, entrepreneurship is this one thing. It's not this one thing. It's not this one thing. Let me also state that entrepreneurship is going to result in you being different. Just accept it. It's going to be rough at first. It's going to be hard. Most of us have taken our cues from the crowd support or the crowd acknowledgement. So if the crowd says, you fly, you figure, shit, my students fly, right? If the crowd says you look good, you say, oh my God, I might be a model, right? Except Josh. Josh do some other stuff with his good looks. But the point is, the rest of us do normal stuff. We try to stay safe. Anyway, see, Josh. But when you become an entrepreneur, you developed a different position and relationship with the public. And you're no longer going to be celebrated the same. You got to know that. Because a lot of times when you are flexing your wings, or you growling as a wolf, you're making somebody in the room feels insecure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got to know that. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you'll call out reality for what it is, and that's the reality they've been working on escaping all this time. Mm-hmm. You got to know that. Mm-hmm. You got to know that when you say green, they will misinterpret it as red because in their mind, they always seen green as red. And when you say, no, it's not, it's almost like they feel like they're being attacked.
Devastated.
Yes, devastating. So you got to know that the role you're taking, anytime you try to climb to the top, you just got to know it's a cost. You don't get to sit at the top. It's really good to be making good money and life is good, but there's also a cost to that. And so you got to know how to sit in the crowd and play a different role, and you can't walk around telling them what they should do. You got to almost sit in that crowd and just enjoy human beings for who they are, right? Because the world ain't perfect. My last point for the night, if you want to do this entrepreneur thing, you can't bask in mediocrity. You can't. I'm sorry, people. We got to let this shit go. Like that mediocrity that social justice imply, that's just not the business. Mediocrity has to be your foundation that you're trying to climb away from at all times. Not saying you have to be the best, but you can never bask in mediocrity. That's just critical. Mm. All right, y'all ready to get started? You ready, Shabisha? Mm-hmm. All right, so before we get started, you guys have any feedback for the class? This is online. I asked folks online. Before we get started, I want to see if you guys have any feedback. Like, hey, could we? I wish this was different, or I don't like this, or I like that. Is there any feedback you guys want to speak into before we jump into it? I know Shakina's got one leg and one eye and one arm and one tooth, so she's online. So if she has anything to say about, see, she can't catch me, so I'm gonna get all these jokes in because if she chased me, she can't catch me right now. So I got all the power. The point is this. So, but anybody that has any feedback, comments, and don't say leave my tooth alone, but that's not the point. But you got any comments, just go ahead. Anybody before we go to the next section, I want to make sure we can keep some space for that.
Online is pretty quiet right now.
Okay, it takes a second for
them to hear.
For us, like there's a delay between. So I should probably be getting a text soon from her saying "F you." Let me turn my ringer off. Woo, yes. Okay, there you go. Okay, so if you guys come with any feedback, just disrupt the moment and let's talk about the feedback because we do care. You gotta remember, we don't teach this class as an extension of our status, our ego. We teach this class as serving you. So we're always looking for feedback to better serve you. We don't want to better serve us. And so we do spend a lot of time curating this class to make sure this class has rich substance and quality substance that actually moves the needle forward. And we try to listen to the feedback on our one-on-one conversations in passing. But please, please, please. Somebody cool ass daddy just walked in here. But you can tell you go to daddy types. Hey, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Is this where I sit? All right now. All right. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? He's cool as shit. So anyway, so we welcome all feedback because the goal of this class is to make sure that we're serving you. So if you guys have any feedback, please do in the class, or if it comes to mind online, if something pops up, should make sure you surface that feedback to us, because in order for us to serve you better, what we don't want to do is live in the echo chamber of our own minds. Mm-hmm. And so the more you continue to talk to us, the better we can make sure that as we're curating these classes for you and we're having these discussions behind the scenes, we're positioning this class to support you and our community in its growth. All right? Is there any personal business questions you guys want to ask before we get started too? Like if there's any personal business questions, like you're working on your business, you're working on a business idea, and you have a question like, hey, I'm just want to pose this question. You can even say, I have a friend. You know, I'm looking at you like, really? So, but you want to say you have a friend, it's all good too. That's how Josh talks about everything. But anyway, the point is this. So if you guys have any questions or anything like this, business questions, please loud those up. You good, Shabisha?
I feel like this question will be great next month for me.
Oh, is the question online?
No. I have, but it's not formed enough.
Oh, okay. If you want to ask a question, it's okay if you ask a question.
I'm working with a couple of people there's a podcast idea that we are lobbing around. And it's specifically talking about consumer brands from the standpoint of, from a store's perspective, like actually, from a brick and mortar perspective, and one of the things that we have been talking about is there's a lot of content out there from like entrepreneurs, founders, people who have done things, but there's not really and maybe they hope to be in a store, but there's not really a lot of visibility to what it takes once you get to a store, and we've said that so much, and that's such a blind spot. But what I recognize is that we're all sitting around and we've all have a lot of experience in stores, which is an echo chamber. And so what I've been thinking about is who to talk to first about stores. Like what I don't want it to be is a lot of inside baseball, because I'm really sensitive to that. Because the purpose is to make that conversation accessible, external. And so we're kind of especially me, swirling on where to start. I know that the conversation is necessary because it comes up so often and it's a snag. I'm struggling on how to bring it down outside so that it doesn't sound so insider.
You got anything to say before I can do it? Because you're closer to a store than I
I
am.
feel like I need a mental hack or
You mean let me ask you. So you want to make sure that the way you curate your podcast, it reaches an audience that's basic enough for them to understand. Have you identified a demographic yet?
3.
3 demographics?
Yep, like 3 specific people.
What are they? Or which 3 people?
Definitely entrepreneurs, like small businesses. Actually, actually people who have bigger businesses, because the longer you've been in it, the more you kind of lose touch with it. And then people who are early starting out, like you're in design, you're in production, you're in PD, you're kind of like behind the scenes. You may not be always touching, you may not always be seeing how what you do touches the audience.
I think you should table the intellectual level conversation. I think you should table it, because I don't think, just from hearing, I don't think it will have the detrimental impact that you think it could, because these are entrepreneurs at high, middle, beginning level. They seek out like nuanced information and detail. I think it's more, how can we get into the heart of what they need? Because if you get to the heart of what they need, shit, you could say it in hieroglyphs and they're going to figure out. They're going to figure out. They're going to be interested. But if it's the heart of what they need, I think if you've identified 3 and there's a large enough crowd, I think, that next step is, what are the top 10 or top 20 things that these people, things that these people can use to accelerate wherever they are, but the manner or the vehicle in which you deliver it, like even if they got to listen to it 3 times, they gonna do it. That's my 2 cents.
I think also my 2 cents, and it's just, once again, this is just a feedback. Something to me is it's and we'll get into why I'm framing it this way in probably our next slide. The question is, how do you want to mine those channels? You can either identify individuals, identify common stories, to mine common distortions, and then build a class around those common, so for example, you meet different entrepreneurs. I think also you have a lot of data from doing consulting work at those different levels, that you can also deal with common misconceptions. And then also another thing that can help you out is bringing somebody on the panel that doesn't have the experience you guys have, that can create that contrast, that can allow you to speak towards that contrast, and that allow you to make sure that you're not missing some things that could be easily assumed. I can get into why that is even in thorough, but it's almost one of the biggest crimes that many communities suffer from now, a lot of nonprofits, because nonprofits, although they're very knowledgeable, there's a rule in serving when it comes to managing or making decisions or understanding people, is you can't understand the behavior or the actions of people you're not around, you don't relate to. So, for example, if you are part of Wall Street and you predict stocks and bonds all the time and economic behavior, but you're getting paid $1 million a year, you can't predict what middle class and lower class people are doing. This is why they often roam, because there's a gap, because they're not part of their culture. That's one of the same reasons why when they asked my firm, what are black people doing in Vallejo? I explained to them, 1, my economic status has changed. 2, I'm not from Vallejo. 3, in order to answer that question, I have to go in there and start using my tools to mine the conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to start to over-leverage assumptions, right? And so I think by having people who are new entrepreneurs and allowing them to speak into their challenges, their barriers, their ceilings, that will start to enrich the conversation. And then you'll also know if your information is landing as practical, because there's a danger of being at this stage that you're the stage that you're engaging, you can find yourself kind of echoing theory and not practicality. And so in order to make sure that your advice is practical, it's going to come from dialogues and engagement. Any other business questions? Go ahead. Pass her a microphone, please.
I was right there.
You got a microphone? Okay. Oh, she got one.
She got 2.
Okay.
two
She
to
learned.
pick from.
Shakita taught you. You want to be
Got all the microphones.
Shakita's like that. She'd be like, so I got something to say real quick. Where did the microphone come from?
Can you guys hear me? Oh,
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
okay. So I have a friend.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so I am struggling a little bit. So I've been in content marketing and like product-led marketing for like 12 plus years, a very long time. And I'm a very linear thinker. Like I'm like, you do the best in school, you get the good job, you graduate early, all the things. And so I'm at a point where I've decided that I've come so far in marketing and I just don't think I want to do it anymore. And I really love event planning and floral design. And within that, I've gotten to a point where it's like the fear isn't from like not necessarily being good enough. Like I've been featured in some magazines and some other things from like a floral perspective, which is really cool. However, I'm very much struggling with the fact that I've been doing what I've been doing in corporate America for so long. And like, did I just waste all this time? And just trying to figure out like what it means to rectify that with like maintaining my current job and using it as a means to do what I want within like entrepreneurship. So like using my 9-to-5 to fund my dream, but also realizing that like with the events and the floral design that it's not like this is like another chapter as opposed to like everything that I've been doing for the past 10 years being a waste. So what would you guys say in that?
There's two
Does that
things
make sense?
Yeah, there's two things that pop up in my mind that I'm going to let Court take it out. I'll come back. But the two things that pop up in my mind right away is linear and a little bit too reasonable. You're so reasonable. Because that's not everything you just defined was a reasonable path. And because the world is really random as hell, part of the dance with the life in the world is being a little bit unreasonable. Sometimes magic comes in an unreasonable space, right? Like breaking away from rational thinking, right? And it feels like extremely logical, extremely linear. But linear is also not the way the world works, right? I think even the way that you're becoming discouraged is linear. Because you're like, oh, did I waste my time? That's very linear. As if everything I've done should be a block on top of each other. And if that block doesn't get me where I want, where the way I see it is that your whole past just needs to be mined for you to see all the gold. So let's say you switch over to the flower industry where the marketing played a role there. But as you gain access to greater challenges on your path, you're gonna find all kind of tools from your past. You're gonna be like, oh man, I know how to do this. Oh man, I can call this person. Oh man, I did this. Like those things will be revealed. When you first start, what you're trying to do is have a linear understanding of the journey you're on and trying to calculate, so if I do this, it's gonna fall here, I do this, it's gonna fall here, I do this. And so that it doesn't work like that. When you get to the entrepreneur game, you gotta marry uncertainty. Like you can have plans, but know that plans only create internal comfort, but it means nothing to the world. And so you gotta know how to like generate your next step as opposed to if I just do this, step's gonna be there, right? And even optionality, which says, okay, I generated a step, Nana, but that step's not there. Okay, but what other steps do you see, right? So it's almost like you use linear thinking as a comfort zone for yourself because it's safe. And here's another thing that's dangerous that Sister Kaja talked about a couple of weeks ago. You can build a lifestyle that forces you to be linear. I mean, that your expenses are so high, you got to stay on the same path because you start your spending habits force narrow lifestyle choices, right? But if you were to like loosen up your spending habits and create more slack, then that leaves you a little room to take risk and be adventurous and go off the path and commit, let some things go. But when that numbers are really, 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 really tight and you don't have any like optionality in your lifestyle because you design a certain lifestyle, and a lot of times that may require for you to redesign a lifestyle that gives you more slack so you can have a broader range of choices. So the first thing that popped in my head was linear.
The first thing that popped in my head was inversion, which I would ask the question for you if you can explain it to me. let's say that everything that you've experienced up to this point was preparing you for your next journey perfectly. Let's just play a game for a second and imagine that your schooling, your career, your college, your life, everything that you've gone through and experienced has led you to this spot right here where you're preparing for this next aspect of your journey. How would you explain it? Let's try it. So let's say you've landed perfectly where you were supposed to be. And now you have this journey. How would you explain it back? How would you explain it to me?
That's a good question. For one, from a personal perspective, I would say that I've put a lot of things in place that make it easier for me to move into entrepreneurship. Like I bought my house, I have like storage space, I have all these things that make it a lot easier to have studio space to design and whatnot. And then from a marketing perspective, like I have a lot of tools. It wouldn't be difficult to market and do like social and all that kind of stuff, like web content, blah, blah, blah. The networking, like that's not difficult because I've had to do it like in professional settings for so long. And then also, I mean, I feel like I've grown to understand what I do and I don't like. Like I've lived in a box for a very long time, and it was very much like Code of the Extraordinary Mind. Like you go to school, you buy the house, you do the yada yada, and like I've realized like where there are confines in that, and like that a lot of these things I was just doing because other people were saying this is the next step, this is what you're supposed to do. Whereas like I can sit and make tablescapes all day. Like, and no time seems to pass. And so, like, but I had to figure out all these things that I realized that don't actually make me happy and make a lot of other people happy, to find that, like, the flowers and the events spark something in me that marketing just doesn't anymore.
That's fire. That's fire. So it's all about reframing, because the cool part about what you're about to do is you will not be a events and floral company. You will be a marketing company that puts on events and does and creates flowers. All companies are marketing companies.
All companies are.
Every single company is a marketing company that does this. So if you got 10 years, 12 years experience, paid experience in that game, it's like starting a race, but you get to run four steps before the gun goes off. So it's actually a dub for you.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful space that you're in. You're in a sweet spot. It's just a frame shift. And you have, like you said, the resources that you have that can allow you the flexibility to play and create. Because here's the other thing about it is, this entrepreneurship is the opposite of linear.
I know.
Like you might have to get some things, you have to walk backwards, and then you walk forward, then you jump up and down, then you duck, and then you go left, then you go right. And like entrepreneurship is everything but linear. So you also have to learn how to get comfortable with being messy, things being kind of all over the place sometimes, hell of uncertainty. And that way you have to toss the linear psychology, and sometimes like, okay, shit, all right, let me just figure it out this happened. All right, well, let me go here and figure this out. And it's a constant. So reframing is going to be your best friend in a lot of ways, to say, all right, well, what's good about my situation? And like, where do I have the advantage, and where's my leverage at in this situation? And that's going to help you really attack where you want to go. Removing the linear psychology, because ultimately, in business and entrepreneurship, linear thinking it makes you vulnerable. It's like you being on low ground and you marching and your enemies are on high ground. They can watch everything. Non-linear behavior creates a space for you to see a 360 view of where you need to go. So reframing, strong, you're there. Everything you've gone through has led you to a sweet spot of where you are right now, and you're in a dope position. As well as once you attack and once you go, you have to think that the fun part will be temporary, because you doing tablescapes is only going, if you're successful, is only going to last for a little while, because over time you're going to grow, and that's going to be somebody else's responsibility, and you're going to have to be behind a computer orchestrating and coming up with a marketing strategy, and you know
Yeah. Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
So you win it. Like I think that's the key point, is that the way you were framing it, to Core's point, it was you were framing it in a negative way, and as you were saying it, I saw opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I saw so many opportunities. I think you're in a winning space. I think when you living with regret or trying to develop that sense of regret, I mean, maybe I did things wrong. I think that's another story intersecting with something else. I think with your marketing background, I think you already know about reframing. That's part of marketing. But I think there's something else going on where maybe there's a loss you had where you thought you was trying to win and you took a loss, and you question yourself right now, or you question like, am I as good as I think I was? I want all these. I got these grades. I got this great job, and here I'm not winning the way I'm supposed to be winning. And I think that is seeking into your thinking, and it's starting to corrupt your processes of what's in front of you. Because everything you laid out in front of us is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And because you love it so much, it's so easy for you to learn it, build relationships with people in that industry, partner with people in that industry, be in the right places in that industry. To actually, with your marketing background, you know what to do with that. Where if somebody doesn't have a marketing background, then we have to get into like, how do you capitalize? How do you reposition? How do you identify your market? So I think that ultimately there's some other stuff seeking into your analysis that's poisoning your richness, because you're very rich right now in your position.
Yeah,
very rich.
I would also add that happens to a lot of folks, a lot of achievers, because we're raised in environments where they put all the boxes in front of us to check, right? These are the boxes of successful and happy people. So if anybody happens to be ambitious and good and high level, they learn how to check those boxes. Oh, these are y'all boxes? Boom, here. Education, the top. Good job, top. Money, top. Check, 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 check. And then you get to like the end of that list and you like, this shit is whack. Like, this ain't everything. I thought I was supposed to be hella happy or fulfilled, or I was supposed to have this feeling, and I got all the stuff, but it's not, I don't feel anything. And that's perfect time for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship, you step into your fulfillment. The like, what am I here for? Why am I here? And so, and now the beauty of this is that helps ground you in case you hit hype cycles when you do get money. Say your business takes off and you start making a lot of money. You know that this shit doesn't make you happy. So you're in the fulfillment of it and building from a space, a more richer place of fulfillment and service to others versus, I'm about to blow up and get rich.
Dope.
Thank you.
Anytime. Any other questions? Go ahead, Pastor Sydney.
When you were answering her question, you had mentioned like, if you're successful, like, you're gonna grow. And I've just been curious about like businesses scaling and like that whole sort of mindset. So I'm curious about when you're scaling as businesses that have scaled, is that something that is intentional? Like, I'm growing this business to scale to X, Y, and Z, or is it reactionary based on like, this is happening in the business, I have to scale because of X, Y, and Z? Like, I'm just been curious about that tug and pull of scaling when it comes to businesses.
It is always intentional. there's companies who intentionally don't want to grow, and the market's pulling on them, and they almost smother themselves out of the market. And it's on top of that too, scaling is a embracing of a lot of different. You have to redesign. You have to design your company for scaling. If you just respond to scaling and you don't put certain things in place, sometimes you're under designed for the growth in the market, right? And so scaling is something you absolutely intentionally need to own because the equations change. So when you first start a business, it's a very simple equation. Like, hey, I have an apple, sell an apple, right? I have an apple, sell an apple. And if I need more apples, let's go pick up more apples to sell more apples. Or if let's say, okay, for example, I make it even simpler. You start off your business and you're making sandwiches, right? So you damn near just, open your refrigerator, you pull out the products and you make a sandwich. Cool. But now you got 1,000 customers. You need new equipment, you need machines, you need new customers, you need a line design system, you need a system for design, you probably need seating, you got to think about your service experience, your hospitality experience. There are now so many different things kick into that system. And if you're not intentionally going down that path to learn beyond what you do every day, what end up happening is that you end up working yourself to death and then being capped off because you're trying to use that, go in the kitchen, you open up, you have 5 bottles of mayonnaise that you've already used. It's like that doesn't make any sense, right? The preparation is even different for scaling, right? Even the taxes and the accounting is different for scaling. Even your business structure changes for scaling, right? Because you have to think about once I scale, your insurance needs are different for scale. So there's so many variables that constantly change. Also, too, when the earliest parts of your business, you have a lot of control. You're like, hey, we're going to do this. And if Court is messing up, Court, hey, man, you messing up. Like, come on. We making sandwiches we don't make no sandwiches like that, but I'd like a cupcake. Let's get this shit together, right? But when you're large, I may never meet Court. How do I build a system that trains somebody I will never meet and still upholds the quality of my brand? Right? So there's all these different systems you got to put into place and all these strategical tools you got to use to actually allow you to scale. Otherwise, you'll grow to a certain size and break because you're no longer there to impact people that you can't see. So if you're not designing systems, engagement, even meetings, even office designs, the chairs they sit in, everything you have to think about, all those variables as you scale. You don't get to just say, we're going to scale and just double up, because at some point, you may need 2 people to get a job done for, say, 10 clients. When you get to 20 clients, you don't need 4 people. You may still need 2, right? Or you may get to 100 clients and need 200, right? The numbers don't play out. It's not linear. Once again, go to that linear term. You have to know how to see how. Because you're serving people, there's so many different variables that are part of the equation that it's almost like if you ever do a development on a house, it's pretty straightforward. Do development on commercial real estate. Way more laws involved, way more requirements involved. And then imagine if you do a whole block of commercial real estate. Don't assume because you built this house in your backyard that you're prepared to run a development project on commercial real estate. It's night and day, even though they still use some similar materials, night and day experiences. So scaling must be intentional because there's so much you have to learn. There's so many things you're going to have to seek out. That's why, and you're not going to own it. It's not like when you scale, don't think by no means that the person who scale is a master scaler. That's why there's so many things you're not going to know, that the humility and the questioning and the relationships and the curiosity is a must. Because you can't get there through. It's so easy, especially for our people. One of the natural responses to feeling like you're not good enough is we want to hero everything ourselves, because it makes us feel like we're good enough. Right? We want to solve all the problems, know everything. We want to be able to get an A on all the report, all the documents that come across our table. That's not how it works, right? The more you grow, you go from playing heroism to emergence, which is how do I get a group of people to emerge the best solution, not how do I come up with all the best answers.
Scaling. Whew. Scaling. This is one of the things that I'll say about scaling is to build a business that even has the capacity to scale. is hard by itself. You're one in the 1 to 3% anyway. If you build a business that even has the capacity to scale. So let's quantify all this. So then you have that business. You're already in the 1 to 3% of businesses. Then you take that business that you scrapped together, however you bootstrapped it. If you look like us, more than likely you didn't have people writing you checks or investors giving you money, or you didn't have hella. So you bootstrapped it. You figured it out by any means necessary type shit to get there. So yeah, along the way, you're going to have Band-Aids and tape and shit along the way through your business. So when your business now is scalable and you have the ability to double up, meaning, oh shit, I could double up. You have to be very, very, very conscious of where all that tape and the bubble gum and the Band-Aids, you got to be conscious of where they are. Because if you forget that you did that, it's going to come back and bite you.
That's tight.
It's going to come back and get you.
That's tight.
It's going to come back and get you. And I'm learning that at scale. You have to, you can't forget, like, damn, this has been running smooth. Yeah, oh yeah. No, it's bubble gum there. So you have to be conscious of that, because and get over the fact that you made it this far and get to work. The second part is, and it's from one of the audios that Nana sent out, and I've thought like this and I've hired like this, but it reiterates the point. Is I always have a saying. I can always teach you the skills, the hard skills, but I can't teach you the stuff that your mama was supposed to teach you. So when I hire for honest, for integrity. Can I trust you? Are you a hard worker? Do you have integrity? Can I trust you? Are you a hard worker? That's why I don't bring resumes. I don't talk experiences. I shoot the shit with you, and I get you to open up and give me the real. I want to figure out who you are. I want to find out those 3 things from you. Now, if those 3 things are locked in, then I can teach you. I could teach you the rest. I can teach you hard skills, how to quality control a garment, or how to use fucking some Adobe program. It's those 3 that are imperative. And the reason why I say that is because as we're scaling, the people who are easy, where it's easy to scale with, where I got less problems with, they got those 3 things. Trust them. They're hard worker. I could trust them. They work hard. They have a level of internal integrity. So that shit's down. So if we have disagreements, things don't go right. Things aren't perfect. They're not linear. There's problems. There's this and that. I have less problems with them because of those core principles that they operate with. If the ones that don't have those 3 core principles, where we have the most issues at scaling, where they stuck, the defensive routines, they don't want to give it up, the mistakes, I'm protecting myself. Well, you're limiting our scalability right here in this moment. And so all that shit's important. You got to clean that shit out your house too. You got to be conscious of it. You got to be constantly looking to clean that out your house. But scaling is not easy. It's not easy, and it's a challenge that is doable, but you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that challenge and that fight, and you have to curate the right people in your team.
I know we want to move on to 1 minute. Just know this in scaling, rational thinking doesn't work. Rational thinking will often work against you. You got to think beyond your rational thinking is really good on one-on-one human interaction. It's horrible at scaling. It doesn't even make any sense. You ever seen in sports, you talk about the old media versus new media? Mm-hmm. Okay. You ever seen Gilbert Arenas talk about how he can't stand Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless or stuff like this? Okay. I can't use the words I want to use right now because we are online, so I won't use the R word. But them cats don't understand scaling. Let me put it this way. Without Stephen A. or ESPN or any of those other commentators, their salaries wouldn't be the same. Basketball, which sport has some of the finest tuned athletes in the world? I think it's track and cycling. Has some of the most finest tuned human athletes in the world. Meaning that, but have you seen the salary of a track star compared to a basketball star? Not even close. Not even close, right? Why does a basketball star receive more money than a track star? Because
Content.
the story. 100% the story. And matter of fact, when did the basketball salaries shoot way up? When they got what kind of contracts? Advertisement contracts. So when a commentator comes online and tells a story who doesn't need to play the game ever a day of their life and says, oh my God, here comes Court from Oakland and he's about to play Sydney from Palo Alto. And they don't like each other because they come from two different backgrounds. And everybody goes to the stadium. They all sit around and watch y'all shoot jump shots. Right? And y'all get $50 million a year because these commentators are stirring up the story. And then the sport players go, see, nobody cares about the real truth about what we go through. No offense, that's not what you're getting paid for. You are getting paid for that, but you're not getting paid for that. Meaning that, yes, you are getting paid to be an athlete and be the best at it, but the world only cares so much. They care about more or less the story of how you show. When you watch Steph Curry, if Steph Curry put out a video right now of all my practice moves, maybe kids who in the sport's going to watch it, but most of the public's not going to watch it. They'll be like, meh. But you talk about what he felt when he went to this one game and how he overcame this big challenge that seemed insurmountable, and he recopied the poetic justice story of David and Goliath. All of a sudden, everybody got to watch that, right? Mm-hmm. So once you understand scaling, if you don't understand scaling, you'll get into that rational argument of Draymond Green or Gilbert Arenas about, these commentators, they stupid and I can't stand Skip Bayless. You should love Skip Bayless. Because Skip Bayless made a player like you make money. There's cats right now that when you come in, if you get, I think the first round, you can get anywhere between $4 to $12 million for the first round or second round. Some crazy amount of money that I didn't know that was a thing. So you guaranteed that money just because you got chosen in the first round. That money wasn't there when Kobe was playing at the height of his career, right? What changed that was, and what even got the NBA to even start down that path was the famous story of this black guy fighting this white guy called Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. It was a storyline. And the Showtime Lakers storylines. And so it shows you when people don't understand the bigger story or the bigger picture scaling, you can get really over focused on one little narrow part of, as athletes, we got to work on this. Yeah, I'm sorry, but no one cares. Mm-hmm. Like, it's important. We can tell that you're not the best, so that does matter to us. So we want to see the best play. But also, too, it's all tied to this storyline of gladiators coming into this arena and battling it out. And these commentators drum up excitement, where if that excitement is lost, all of a sudden you'll see salaries drop because the money's not there. And you can almost see it's synonymous that the NBA took a hit same time ESPN was taking a hit too. Because when the storytellers are not popping, nor are the stories they talk about popping. So this is one of those things where, no, Gilbert Arenas, you need Stephen A. Smiths. Because without Stephen A. Smiths, and Stephen A. Smith needs the basketball players. And they have this relationship, but one is not superior to the other. And even the whole idea is, this is the old media and we're in new media. Flawed thinking. Let me show you why that's a business flawed thinking. New media is because you play basketball right now, right? But let's say your career's over, where are you going to stay? You're probably going to stay in the media, right? Mm-hmm. So then you're that generation of thinking, and that new generation that comes along that doesn't think like you. Guess what you are now? Old media. I mean, there's no such thing as old versus new media. It's just media. right? So all these kind of ideas that they're running and they really believe in shows they don't understand the principles of scaling. Because principles of scaling says, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, you guys need each other. The value of both of you guys are important. Athletes, and even the show that they, as athletes, given the story, the way they talk about sports, if you pay attention, if they sat down and talked about the technical moves and the technical plays they run every day, I think LeBron James and what's his name try to run that show, Redding.
JJ Redick.
JJ Redick.
He said that.
And nobody watched that shit.
He said it.
Nobody want to watch that shit.
He said, when I talk about the technical aspects of basketball and the 4 different offenses that I run, I get 50,000 views. But when I talk about 2 coaches who hate each other, I get millions of views. So what the fuck? What you gonna do?
That's what you're not playing basketball for Jesus and the guys have already blessed you with the outcome. You're playing for human beings, and unfortunately, that's the game you're playing. Never forget the game you're playing. Anyway,
this conversation is fire. No, seriously, because when I was looking for a project, I was looking at how the hell did tech become the thing by which we measure everything about when it's still not the largest part of our GDP. Like, by all intents and purposes, tech is like the loudest thing, so much so that when you think about so many things in business, tech examples are the things that come up. But there are businesses that are much larger than it is, at least in the US, I'm saying, from the standpoint of like GDP. Mm-hmm. But what tech does is that they have a massive content engine. They have people who are always, like, they give media stories to talk about. They give MSNBC, CNN, whether they're for or against it. Mm-hmm. They have so many people. They have venture capitalists that put out thought pieces. Like, they are constantly talking. So much so that non-tech businesses get measured by tech standards in the media because the media doesn't have another way to do it, because non-tech businesses don't really focus on content. They don't really focus on storytelling. Mm-hmm. And so they work really hard, but they're under the radar. They work harder than tech does. But I could say the same thing about any number of businesses. You know, small business has to put so much time in, but they're working so hard, they're not telling stories.
That business is, if business is always about people, then you got to look at what attracts people to congregate around something, to find value in something, right? And if you pay attention to human history, we've been hijacked millions of times behind stories, right? Not true. A lot of times it's not even close to truth. But stories have, and then sometimes when it is true, the person who gets us to really rally and then move in a certain direction is somebody who's able to tell a great story, right? Often we would look at somebody like a president of the United States as someone who would drum up stories to move the nation this way or that way or change human behavior, right? Even when you watch everybody in the politics is controlled more or less by stories than facts now. Like, if you can't talk about politics in sound bites. It's not a possible thing. So when you're talking about politics through sound bites, then what you're doing is you're using stories to move human behavior more than you're saying, okay, let's look at the systemic or where the numbers are going or where things are happening in investment. There's an underinvestment in a lot of institutions in the power of stories, right? And if you ever pay attention, like once you get this human behavior thing, I think what Steve Jobs was told Bill Gates, the only problem with your company is, I think you call it LSG, which is this idea of you don't design your products well for human touch. Mm-hmm. You just don't design it for like human engagement well. Yeah, you're smart as hell, but it's just no fun to touch your shit. Right? Like that's just basic human shit, right? It's basic human rules. And I think what happens with a lot of people is that we get arenas and all these basketball players, we think what we do is more important than the experience that human beings have of what we do. And the experience they have with what we do is more important than what we do. But a lot of times even when we get together, we keep talking about what we do, as opposed to how are people experiencing what we do. And that's where the weight sits, right? It's like You know, that's like if somebody made a hoodie and like, yo, my material is this, and it's this certain quality, this, the other. We saw a lot of those companies die because one thing those companies did not have was good service. They were so into like, yeah, you know, and I designed it with the finest rice from the furthest angles of Africa. And then I go to China and I get the finest grass and I grow it together and I produce this material. Yeah, but I gotta stand this long ass line. And that was cute at first, but this is it's over with. Right? And so it's this element of like, it's almost like it's almost like a form of entitlement. You know what I mean? It's the craziest shit ever.
Similar things happen when you're trying to scale your career. Like you get stuck at a certain point inside of companies because you're really skilled, but you don't know how to connect with people. You don't understand how to get people to advocate. Like you just don't know how to leave people with a feeling that they can't help but talk about you. But you know that you work harder than everybody else. And so you don't understand why you're not getting looks. And it almost feels like you're lowering yourself to learn to be relational. And I would say that probably you could see echoes in that in entrepreneurs. Like I would hire somebody else to do that because my job is to do this. And I get it, but I would say like I learned that very late. And I did spend a lot of time really bitter about people who weren't as talented as me, but they understood that they were there to build relationships first, and I didn't understand that.
Did you see the story of Jess Hilarious?
Who?
Jess
No.
on the morning show?
No.
Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club? She came out publicly and said, because she's a professional working comedian.
Yeah.
/ she just had a baby. Shout out to her. And she came back, and the young lady that's been there, who's amazing. I enjoyed listening to her. She's really, really good. Well, Jess felt like they was trying to share her space that she had earned with this young lady. So then she goes off and says, I'm not having a good time. I feel like they don't stand up for me. I don't like coming to work anymore. I feel like you guys don't make sure you fight for my position. Unfortunately, this is going to sound really shitty. And she even started crying online. So, of course, when somebody cries, that's a hard thing. I hate to see sisters cry at all, period. Like, maybe I'm just becoming an old black man. I don't want to see black young women cry at all, right? But the thing is, if you paid attention to the conversation, she started saying, Envy and, what's his name, Charlamagne, you guys just set up for me. What is she doing wrong, Gail? What is she doing wrong? Automatically. Personalize it with what else? We've been teaching it all year for 2 years. What is she doing? Not taking radical responsibility, right? Like if you work at a job and you're constantly leaving for other gigs, no offense, and this other girl is there every day, and she's good. It's not like she's not good. It's not like they say, oh, you just cute. Like Jessica is beautiful, and so is the other girl. They're both equally beautiful. It's not a who looks the best. The other girl just has a great personality and a great dance with DJ Envy and Charlamagne the Guts. She flows really well with them. So when Jess comes back, the more she comes back, her role become with her more further and further and further away. And she feels like you guys are not standing up for me. And it's like, no. And then she left. Then she happened to have a baby on top of her shows and even had even a bigger gap. And the show started to adjust this way. So then she thought when she came back, it comes back. Why did I say that? It's not because I really don't care about this that much. I'm saying that it was a story being played out that shows us that if you're trying to gain security, even in a job, there's a thing called optionality, which is you always talk to people and stay cool with people and keep your skills tight. And then what happens is if this job shuts down because the biggest illusion is when you have a job, you have security. It's no such thing, people. I don't give a shit if you work for Moses and the company. It's just no such thing. They've been around for a long time, part of many seas. They still going to, at some point, can go out of business, right? But the key thing is that you have to know that that's a thing. And if you work in corporate America and you even want to go up the ladder, it's still about relationships. It's always about entrepreneurs. It's always about relationships. Being a cubicle genius will kill you. being a person that stays to myself and just do me, stay at my keyboard, get this work done, and somehow when I finish this work, it's gonna shine in the sky like the bat signal, and everybody in the community knows I've been performing. It's not a thing. Right? And so this business thing is about relationships, it's about people, money, period. It's about people. You say my money's down, check your people relationship. I bet you that investment is pretty low as well.
Yeah. I'd say this too, just a friendly reminder. It's a cold game. Nobody owes us shit. Nobody. So if we expect people to show up for us or stand up for us, or we think linearly like 1 + 2 = 3, 3 + 4 = 7, like, then we're gonna end up losing at certain points, because you have the power of compounding, the power of compound interest, which means my relationship is worth more than your value. Mm-hmm. You could be better than me, but my relationship is stronger than you. Mm-hmm. So over time, if I used to think that way too, just be better than everybody. Mm-hmm. You'll be fine.
Will Smith, outwork everybody.
Outwork, be better.
Instagram.
That's a losing. It's not losing. It just only gets you so far. You get stuck. And you look around and you're like, it's not fair, because this is a cold game. Life ain't fair. And so when I jumped into entrepreneurship, I did the same thing. Just be better than everybody. Make shit better than everybody. Design rawer than everybody. Mm-hmm. And yes, that does get you far, but again, it has limitations. And the limitations is scaling limitations. Mm-hmm. And the person who I learned that quick and fast when I met one of my competitors, and he was like, yeah, that's cute what you're doing. But I go to all the bar mitzvahs and weddings, and I've been doing this for 20 years. You ain't taking my customers. I can take yours, though. I show up. I sit there and listen and talk to a customer. I know his kids. I send shit for his son's birthday. Like, I do all of that stuff. So you think you can come in and flash your nicer uniforms, your nicer shit, and they just gonna jump to it? Not gonna happen. And I was like, fuck you, you right. So people always, like, I can be busy as fuck in the office, but I still sit down and have an hour-long conversation with a coach, listening to all kind of shit that I got hella work screaming at me from my office. But let's talk about everything you want to talk about. God, this, that, let's do it. Because I know that building relationships, at the end of that, it's like, man, I fuck with you. I ain't messing with nobody else, man. That's why I fuck with you. Mm-hmm. Relationship.
Everything. All right, let's jump to the first slide. So, Corey, you want to explain this one real quick? Because we covered this last week, but I wanted to revisit. We're going to revisit a few slides from Corey class and my class. But let's open with an explanation. Then I want to get into like a kind of conversation with you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one is huge because this is connected to a cognitive distortion.
Oh, my God.
So can anybody guess what cognitive distortion this one is connected to? Take a shot at it.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. All or nothing. Ding, ding, ding. Excellent. Excellent job. So because a lot of times when we think life is going good and everything is operating at the pace that it's supposed to, shit's rocking, we good. But say something goes wrong or goes bad or falls apart, or it's a catastrophe. Our brain shifts. If we have all or nothing thinking, our brain will go from this was amazing to this is horrible. This is terrible. This is all bad. What years were that when that was a slang term? Man, what's going on, man? It's all bad. Remember that?
I do.
All bad. It's all bad. So the next logical step, the next linear step, if you're a logical person, if you're thinking this shit is all bad, then what's the solution with all bad? It's clean slate. Start over. That's the next. If something's all bad, if you have an apple and you say it's all bad, you
Throw
don't
it
eat
away.
that motherfucker. You throw it away. You get a new apple. It's a new time. It's a new. So with all or nothing thinking, this is probably one of the biggest challenges for all or nothing thinkers. They think if something, man, my kid is acting up, I need a new kid. What? Yeah, fuck it. This kid, just fuck it. He could do whatever. Let me start over and go have another child. I know people who think like that. Because that's what all or nothing thinking does. This shit is start. So when we have issues in our business, or even issues in our life, or even issues in our body, in our diet, and lots of things that goes on, the propensity is to start over, do some big change, some giant thing to start. No, more than likely, it's a tiny tweak. It's a change. Like, I know we don't talk Tony Robbins here, but he says something that was really dope. I learned from him. And he was saying, most of your problems are 3-degree problems. So if you are looking at things like a golf club and you hit a ball, if it hits in that sweet spot, that ball can go 325, 500 yards straight down the fairway. But if you tweak 3 degrees and hit it exact same way, that ball's going in the trees or it's going in the water. And it's because the 3 degrees compounds and over yards it goes that far. So the average thinkers, when their ball goes in the trees, thinks they got to change their whole swing. They hold this, they hold that, they hold everything. But really, it's just 3 degrees. You just got to turn your face 3 degrees. And that's what we do. We just got to turn our face sometimes 3 degrees, just tweak it 3 degrees, add one thing, take away one thing, stop doing one thing, start doing one thing, and sit back and observe. How did that affect? What effect did it have? Because here's the fucked up part about changing everything. Say you go from a disaster, you throw it out in the trash, you start over, you change everything, and now it goes well. And you need to repeat it. Do you know what you did? Do you know which one of those things was it? You don't. So you're headed for a potential another disaster because you don't even know the formula of your success. You just trying shit. So tiny tweaks, what was powerful about tiny tweaks is it also allows you to monitor what effect the tweaks have. Man, how do you know you have motherfucker? I'm firing all you motherfuckers. No. How do you know? Pull this person out. That could be the cancer right there. Add this one element to your process and systems. That could be the fix right there. And over time, you'll get there. But like this one also ties to the can I prove it in the court of law mental filter, which means a lot of times once we get to that all or nothing state, we can ask ourselves the question, well, is it true that it's all bad? What's good about it? Like we talked earlier, well, what's good about it? What does work? Well, this works, that works, that works. That's good. So now it's not all bad. It's just these few things don't work. All right, well, let's start with these 4 things. That's the strategy. And this one will help you mentally and it help you with your business.
Is there any other? Okay, before I jump into this, because I have some things I want to add to it. Is there any thoughts around all or nothing or tiny tweaks that you kind of process it different, or you have anything to add before I add anything to it? Anything? You know, it's really weird when you ask somebody anything and they don't even shake their head. They look at you like this. Okay. I got another play on that tiny tweaks. I think tiny tweaks is one of the things I noticed in this class is that you guys will hear a model from us and then narrowly apply it. You don't realize that these models have different ways of showing up in different places. They're like a star more than they're like a stick, right? So they have all multiple angles they can spread into our world. Have you ever seen somebody said, I want to go into business building, say, I want to build my own car factory. And let's say you live at your house and you got $100,000 in the bank, 10 grand in the bank, 2 grand in the bank. And a lot of times, the reason you can't imagine the complexity of the car company or the complexity of the system that you're looking at discourages you. You guys ever been there before? Like you've seen something like, yeah, that's real complex. I don't know if I can do that. Mm-hmm. Or a problem seems insurmountable. And your brain is trying to, similar to what was happening earlier, you're trying to build a solution from your chair at your house. Okay, I put this here, I'm gonna put that there, then I'm gonna have this in this place. And you start to overwhelm yourself and realize how many things you don't know, and you almost quit, right? Because you don't see the serendipity of small tweaks. When you start, like, so for example, in my company, I'll often say, just start the shit. And it sounds like I'm being lazy, like just get out of my face. I'm not saying that. What I discovered is when you start something and you start making decisions, small decisions along the way, if you revisit that solution a year from now, it looks complex as shit. It feels like doctors and scholars got together and the greatest minds sat in one room, right? But as a group of people continue to re-examine the problem and continue to add and tweak small, what you're losing is the value of time. Time turns it into something so complex that it's something to marvel at. But in the early stages, it might be as linear and simple as I'm going to sell apples to my community. Well, and before you know it, you start selling apples. And then when you get out there, you realize, well, damn, they need something to drink. And then you realize, well, they also need some oranges. And before you know, you're like, well, shit, so they need this. I need a place to house this stuff. So you rent a little store. And then after you rent a store, you realize, well, shit, I don't have time to sell this because it's popping now. And also, too, I'm kind of concerned about these streets and the glass. And so now you go out there and you say, well, we need to redesign this. And you start having conversation with people like, hey, how would you redesign this? And they say, well, you should redesign like this. Now you come with some state-of-the-art design that's never been thought about because no one ever told this designer this challenge for that designer to come with that creative solution. So now you put that design in place. Then it breaks open this new business similar to Amazon. And you go, you know what, since everybody needs technology and I got servers, I'm going to go ahead and just build a server house and sell that service. And then I'm going to use a portion of that service to run my business. And before you know it, the servers make more money for you than the actual apples do. And now you're in a server business, but you still have an Apple company. And now you're worth $1 billion. And you're like, how the hell I get here? But if you try to think about those unforeseen surprises that come from starting a process in the beginning, you're not giving the process its fair due. The process will unfold so many surprises that will yield new wins for you that you will never see those wins up front. And so understand that a lot of complexity comes from tiny tweaks. Give you an example. Okay, live in a house for a long ass time and then decide to move. You be like, I never knew I had so much shit.
Oh, God.
And your mind, because your mind only think about, maybe if I say, hey, if I hit your house tomorrow, what you gonna grab? Well, you can almost say it on 5 or 10. I'm gonna grab this. The day you move, you realize there's not enough fucking fingers amongst me and my crew to count all the shit I find valuable, because you realize I got so much shit, but it accumulates over time. Same thing with business. Time would just get the shit started. Some of you guys, okay. Mm-hmm. You have to also know in the tiny tweak process, when you're on a frontier of building something new, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. In many cases, you're going to look really, really stupid. But if you stay with it, just stay with it and continue to tweak it and learn and tweak and adjust. And all of a sudden, somebody like, how'd you build that Ferrari? Man, that shit was a go-kart before. Mm-hmm. But I just continue to learn, tweak and adjust, add parts, learn, tweak and adjust, add parts. Then one day you wake up. Now, here's a funny thing. If you have cynics around you, if you have defensive people, negative thinkers around you, or what we in black community call haters, and you're going through that process, you start questioning the process of tiny tweaks. Because what happens is as you do comparisons, or people start saying, man, you real stupid at building this shit. You're not that good. All of a sudden, you abandon those tiny tweaks, and you just abandon your future great idea. Mm-hmm. So Look, the problem with, okay, if you ever come to me and say, "Now, is this a good idea?" That's a linear question. I mean, if I went from here to here, if I went from A to B, is that a good idea? I might say no. But if you start on a journey from A to B and let the discoveries lead you, no one can predict that. No man can predict that. No man, because in the end, my prediction will always fall short because so many mental distortions a human being possesses. And so ultimately, tiny tweaks is really speaking to the psychological behavior rhythm of scaling and building a business, which is a lot of tiny tweaks create future complexities. Those future complexities can give you a competitive edge. It also can be a competitive weakness, right? So, for example, how could it be a competitive weakness? China in 1984 was mostly bicycles. Did y'all know that? Most of China was riding bicycles. There was almost no cars in China in the 80s. Did y'all know that? 1980s, almost no cars in China. This China is making all these cars is about to take down America. In 1980s, it was almost everybody in China was riding bicycles, right? But what China was doing was it was building cell phones. So what happened was when they decided to, I think it was Nokia or whatever those companies decided they wanted to get into cars, they decided to become a technology first, car second. So when they moved to electrical cars, so America takes 6 years to change its models of car designs. China changes every year. Why? Because they started fresh with a new system going. When we build cars, we're going to approach it the way we build phones, and we're gonna instead of me trying to build the whole car, I'll build the design, you build the battery, I'm gonna control the technology, and then all I need to do is just keep changing the body and the comfort zone. So to the human being, you get a new car every year, right? America has a legacy system. We started with the engines from 1900s. So to us, it's like, well, change, this Goliath doesn't change like that, man. When we have to change, you gotta go to this department, this gotta change, this gotta change, gotta regulate this, then I get aligned with the government. So China could churn like this because they knew and they don't have the same complexity. However, what systems would tell you is that within time, China will have the same complexity. Because as technology changes, the way that they came into the system is no longer the fastest way because of the size of the company. So what I'm suggesting to you guys is that don't throw away the seeds. Like you guys are looking at forests, like, oh, look at them beautiful forests, and it's so complex, and realize, that was just a couple of trees before. But between animals picking up twigs and dropping seeds and shitting, and the shit had seeds and stuff happened and water, and then the water cracked, and all of a sudden you got a beautiful forest that's flourishing. One day it was just a couple of trees. And that's exactly how your business runs. So the tiny tweak principle, be careful because you become victimized when you do comparison. Let's say you open up a computer store tomorrow, you look at Apple, you look at your store, you're like, I ain't got a chance. Stop that. You focus on your tiny tweaks, and you'll be surprised. In 2 years, it could even be 3 to 5 years, it could be 10 years. We don't really know what that is. You could be bigger than Apple. You could be a rival. You could even just have a company so large that you just so good you ain't tripping. But when you keep doing these comparisons and you're looking at their complexity to where you're at, you're not taking into consideration they got there through tiny tweaks. Time is a motherfucker. A lot of times, a lot of shit you see, okay, if you go study white people in 1906, 1907, 1908, it was poor. Like, y'all don't know what poor is until you see how white people were living. Black people was even worse than that. So then they go through World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, and make some tweaks, some adjustments, whatever, right? So in 1970s, they go, look at our great warships and look at our great businesses and our great cities. And because you was born in the 80s and 90s, you think they've always been great. No, they haven't. Tweaks along the way.
Hey, I have an example of that most of you guys witnessed if you grew up in the East Bay. So I love Mexican culture. I love Mexican folks. Them are my brothers and my cousins. And one of the reasons why I respect them the most is their ability and their willingness to get it out the mud where they are, start where they stand. So if you grew up in Oakland, last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we drive by and we may even balk at the watermelon guy or the flower person or the Home Depot workers, right? Home Depot workers, the flower person, the this, that, the jobs that nobody want, the housekeeper. You got to connect somebody who can help clean my house. What they're doing is they're converging and buying up property and homes and business surrounding businesses around those homes, which is turning into whole neighborhoods that are owned a lot by the same culture. So I have a friend who he told, like, he was telling me, like, yeah, like, I was Home Depot. I would stand out in Home Depot, but I lived with 3 of my brothers. We all lived together. So, and we had wives. So we all go, I do odd jobs. You sell the little thing, you sell the watermelon. I do the Home Depot because I got construction experience, and we all come and pay off this one house. House is paid off now. We don't have mortgage anymore. Now it's the house next. Now we wait for the house in the same neighborhood to go for sale, and we go after it. Cash offer. So that's why my partner, all their brothers and family live in 1-2 block radius of the same neighborhood. So now the little supermarket goes out of business on the corner of that neighborhood. Right? And they take in whatever hustle, flower hustle, whatever. That's watching the tiny tweak principle in motion. That's how San Leandro, San Lorenzo, the Dubs, even the 40s and 50s, like you're watching neighborhoods expand from the tiny tweak principle. Now, if we got this many people in the neighborhood, fuck it, we might as well advocate for a school. Now that school is in all Spanish. Fuck it, we need a doctor. Well, somebody's going to open up a pharmacy and doctors in that neighborhood, all Spanish. I remember when I was on EBT and didn't have insurance, I had to go to some whatever was on the list. I walked in there and they spoke Spanish to me. Everything was in Spanish. Like, this is our neighborhood. We own this shit now. That's tiny tweaks in motion. And that's why we like, well, how can the black community have change? How can the black community be, economic this and improve this? We know it can't happen in some big giant cold turkey thing. Trying to play the tiny tweak game. This class is a tiny tweak, one tiny tweak. Like, you guys going out and building your business is just one tiny tweak in the drop of black culture. That's why we doing this shit. We know how big this elephant is. We're just saying, hey, what tiny tweak can we do? And hopefully it catches on and everybody and people will start doing their part.
So, Sharisha, real side note. So you work with the big movement. I think there's 2 major hype cycles that I don't think most people paid attention to. I think .com was a hype cycle. It's a big one.
Big one.
Huge. I mean, really huge, but hype cycle. But can we talk about the black entrepreneur hype cycle that just happened? First of all, can you share some of your observations? And then I want to kind of talk about some of this stuff because it's kind of tied to Tiny Tweak. So you want to share a little bit about the current state of, like, nonprofits giving money to black businesses, corporations giving money to black businesses. You want to share and want to discuss that state a little bit and kind of like where we were and where we are.
Oh boy, I got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as we all know, we just lived through what one paper called a small business boom. And they called it the Biden-Harris small business boom because small businesses, black businesses, brown businesses, but black businesses in particular got a lot of focus for a 4 to 5 year stretch where there was a lot of money available. So when you have the way that a lot of this works, whenever it's like public dollars or nonprofit dollars, you have a limited amount of time to be able to distribute that money.
Adjust your microphone a little bit. Just
Yeah, am I low?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you have a window by which you get to distribute certain sums of money, right? So not all of that money is always going to be available. You had a lot of funds that launched for a limited time. And on the other side of all of that, if you look at food and beverage, I'll pick one, 90% of the funding is gone from that 4 or 5 year period, right? So when you think about Black businesses and the number of Black brands and the number of Black founders that got money during this time is unprecedented. What happened, though, is there was also a push for those businesses to scale. A really big push for that. And I'm not talking venture capital. I'm talking at the nonprofit level, because while venture capital is looking for you to scale commercially, so you're scaling top line, nonprofit is looking for you to scale jobs oftentimes, right? So they all want different things. And so the push is, okay, you have government who is really, really supporting this entrepreneurial conversation, and you have unprecedented numbers of people who are creating new businesses. California in particular is like one of the top places for people to start business. It has been for about 25 years. Each year has been unprecedented compared to the year before. So it's just continued to go up. But the question has never been, is the demand going up at the rate that new business is being created? It just wasn't a question. And so now you have a market that's flooded with every kind of business, and everybody's a small business, everybody's local, everybody's Black. Well, how do I, as a consumer, then determine which one I'm going to do? Because now I just have a lot of food, I got a lot of beverage, I got a lot of fashion, because that's where we tended to be, and I'm not really sure how I'm choosing that. But again, now then, because each year I seem to be growing, what I don't understand is that I'm in a hype cycle, and I don't quite understand that I didn't cultivate that audience. So on top of the fact that you have money going to businesses, you also have the government kicking in money, so now there's more disposable income, but all of that is temporary. So what I think as a small business is that I have this customer. And so we had several years now, they're doing surveys. So the Federal Reserve Bank does surveys, and they say, how many of you are still experiencing impact from COVID? About 60% of them are saying, I'm still experiencing impact. And I'm like, no way. That many years after the pandemic, that's a new baseline, which is what that's basically saying is that in this market right now, this is your value to the market. My assessment is that that's not coming back. That would be my assessment, that many years after a pandemic, because you can look and see other areas that are actually going where the curve is going up and to the right. So if you're still saying that this many years after a pandemic that you're still having pandemic impact, which means that the market has moved, and the data shows that it has, you don't have the downtown foot traffic, which you didn't cultivate. You just benefited from that. So there's so much that the market was giving small businesses that small business wasn't working for. But then as people move out, or as downtowns change, as money starts to shift, you don't have a market anymore. But you've expanded your business. Maybe you hired more people. Maybe you overinvested. Maybe you started to launch a lot of product because you were under the assumption that it was going to keep going up, and that all of this program and all of this money and all of this, come be in our store, come be in our whatever it is, come do business with us, come be a part of our program, and you will get money. Now that's not happening anymore. But in those 4 years, the work to build a relationship with your audience, the work to build a relationship with the customer just wasn't happening because they didn't understand that they needed to. And so this is a hype cycle, right? These are like the elements of what a hype cycle is, which is there's major tailwinds in the market, and a lot of boats are rising, but those things don't stay around. And from what I've seen, I haven't seen maybe Nana would have a better data point on this, but before this point, no. This was the most diverse cohort of new businesses that has been in American history, according to the reports. So we haven't had this number of Black businesses out there in the market. The other thing that you also have is you have places like Etsy, you have marketplaces on social platforms, all of these infrastructural things that small businesses don't have to build. But that's also not your market, because that's Facebook's market. That's Instagram's market. That's all these other people's market. And if the algorithm changes, or if the rules change around privacy, or if Apple introduces iOS 14, then you no longer have the same thing. And so, again, this question of like, how are you cultivating a customer when you're in a hype cycle? And that can be from a process perspective, which is Etsy, Facebook, other social platforms are making it possible. Even Upwork and Fiverr are making it possible for you to get access to a market, or there's all this money hitting the market, or there's all of these sudden business partners who are wanting to do business with small business, or the government is wanting to do there's a big hype cycle, but none of that did the small businesses cultivate. And they didn't leverage that time to build that relationship. And now they're going away, and now the business is unsustainable. And there's no more money like that coming unless we have another pandemic.
So let me put it on the ground where chicks can get at it, because Shabisha is smart. I love that's why
that
she's
was
my
smart.
sister.
I thought that was
No, you smart as hell. You smart. You know what I'm saying? That's why you're my sister.
All right.
Imagine you have a company and you have a salesperson working for you.
Okay.
And every day they go out to do sales, they come back with 10 and 20 new jobs. You're like, God damn, this dude is killing it. Oh my God. Oh my God, this is great. And you start to build structure around this salesperson, because he just, for the last 3 years, he's walked through the door with 10 and 20 jobs. And you start getting him or her salesperson of the year awards. And they're being celebrated, they're walking around, they popping collars, they're asking you for bonus, like, yo, listen, I know I'm a salesperson, I know I'll get paid on commission, but I need a base of $100,000 just to get this shit started, and I need a Rolls Royce because I done made you at least 10 or 20 million. Okay, fuck it. My money you making me, what's $150,000 to $200,000 for a car? Here you go, boom, Rolls Royce, let's go. Right, you investing, you're buying into this person, and then the market, you find out that they weren't good salespeople. Something was happening in society that made them come looking for you, and he just happened to be on the right corner, just taking the jobs in. And all this time, you thought you had an amazing salesperson. So when that person goes away, you're stuck with all this cost that you've accumulated, all this infrastructure you accumulated. Mm-hmm. You even have beliefs. And so then when the business slows down, you tell that person, go out there and find me another job. Mm-hmm. And they're out there scrambling, trying to find another job, and you're pouring more money, investing. Well, you know what? The reason I can't find a job, because that Rolls Royce you brought me the wrong color, bro. Nobody looking at black. I need a white one. So you fuck it. Okay, I'll give you a white one, because it's a hype cycle. You think the drop off is because some tweak that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. In business, you can't. This is where rationalization becomes your enemy, because rationalization gets you caught up in the micro experience. He came to work, he got dressed, was his clothes cool, was his outfit cool, what's your sales pitch, how do you approach it? He goes out, he goes to a certain location, he does his little typical dance. It somehow just works. It works. But that dance, everything that you guys are engaging in is a big assumption. Big ass assuming. Everybody's assuming, as long as you do this happened, money comes in. And then the system stops. Now, it's still a business, mm-hmm. But what you realize that you're a victim of assumptions because you wasn't taking tiny steps. The market took away your tiny steps and gave you false response to your actions. If you threw a rock, somehow it threw you a diamond back, you thought, this is crazy. All you have to do to be successful in business is just throw rocks. Mm-hmm. These fools over here talking all this complexity and all that shit. I just get up in the morning, sit on my balcony, and I just throw the motherfucking rock. Before you know, I got diamonds, baby. This is why I can teach you all about business. For all that shit, not to talk about too many words. Throw the rock, get a diamond. What? Right? This becomes the rhythm, and then the culture starts to say, man, fuck what Nana talking about. Hey, we're going to work on throwing rocks off our balcony. That's how everybody's coming up right now. And people start saying, yo, last night I threw 3 rocks off my balcony. I didn't get 10 back, but I got two diamonds. This shit crazy. Now we're in a scenario now that it becomes the cultural standard of how you do business now. The problem, this is the coldest problem. When the hype cycle goes away, all those people and all the people that they impacted with their reward and action system now has reshaped business. And when it goes away, those people almost want to kill themselves. They start feeling like they are a failure. They start personalizing it like I'm falling because something I'm not doing, when none of the above applies. The problem you're facing is that you were engaging in a hype cycle this whole time, and it was giving you false responses, false signals back. And so you thought that signal was the way business works. And you also, watch this, Black people, we suffer from what? Not feeling like we're not good enough. That's the most dominant thing people suffer from in our community. Because this America constantly hinting, you're not as good as us. Second classes, minority. You're not the original. Remember, you guys did come from slavery. I'm just saying. Right? They do that shit to us all the time. So when you run your business, here's a chance to validate myself, for me to finally arrive, to prove to the world that I'm not what they said I was. So guess what? When your business falls, so do you. You may actually have a good business idea, but guess what you're going to have to revert to? Tiny tweaks. When the hype cycle's over, you may have a good business, but things, you're going to have to get smarter about everything. You're going to have to start making I don't know if y'all grew up, I grew up really, really poor, and y'all poor changed. Like after crack, poor was something different. Before crack, it was just, we didn't have shit, but we weren't worried about bullets, none of that other shit, all that other crazy shit y'all was dealing with. I'm just keeping it real. Post-poor after crack is stories that I can't say on this microphone without being canceled on YouTube. But what happened was you would figure out how to make that sugar last an extra week or two. You would figure out how to make that milk last an extra week or two. You would figure out how to you'll go buy some steak and figure out how to make that steak last like an extra whole week, right? You found all these different ways to stretch things by mixing things, and mama would buy beans and you out there popping those beans and mixing the greens and the vegetables and to make stuff stretch, and some carbohydrates, some noodles or some rice or whatever you got to mix into that stuff that makes shit stretch. Y'all know the black spaghettis, right? Famous shit of all time. And how long do we eat black spaghettis as black people? A long time. Let's just keep that shit 100, right? Those are poor patterns being passed down, right? Well, a lot of times when the hype cycle drops down, you got to have some basic knowledge on how to start off with this. I'm gonna make this spaghetti to get us going, and then if I just keep going after a while, I can actually buy something else. And if I keep going, I might be able to have burgers next week. If I keep going, I can start eating some salads to go along with this. And if I keep going, before you know it, I'm having a feast. And if I keep going, and that's the real process of building a business and knowing how to do these calculations and how to make these adjustments. But when somebody boosts you really, really, really fast and make you skip the tiny tweak principles, you also skip a lot of knowledge. A lot of knowledge. And your ego inflates the value of who you are or where you arrive. So going back to the Latino comments he was making, we have this Latino dude now that they drive golf carts. And they come through with, oh man, they ain't gonna be hella good. I'll be like $5 a bag, like a Ziploc bag, buy everybody in the family mangoes. And my daughter be like, this is so good, right? Like we all be eating mango, like nobody wanna share. Like if you come to my house and like, let me get a bite of that mango, we all look at you like, well, somebody is. I don't know. It gets really serious about our mango, right? Dude drives his little go-kart, beep, 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 fresh fruit. Cut up already for you, tastes hella good, $5 a bag, $10 for this, but it's like all reasonable pricing, right? Even if it's slightly more than going to the store, I don't have to go to the store. Here you go, right? 20 tiny tweaks. He or her is learning principles about business that person who got all that money really, really fast, who nonprofits got in the ear like, well, this is how you do business. This is how you should think about business. They form more bad habits, and then they got burned into their brain because they got rewarded for it. They even had a temporary lifestyle for it. I'm seeing companies that were making millions, that were black companies that got put on by this era of money, who almost got no money, and they're looking horrible as a business. And it's not because they're not dumb people. They're not. They're not dumb people at all. They skip the tiny tweak process and makes them look like they're dumb people. Because you learn when you, like, for example, this thing's course learning from bootstrapping, that he can run circles around certain people. Because he's bootstrapped. Same thing with Fight Team Media. Fight Team Media bootstrapped our ass off. $7,000 was my starting money. That covered everything. First, second month rent, furniture, we about to be sitting down. I'm gonna just admit right now, I took a computer from my last job. This is in the 90s, got to give it up. So, 2006, 2005, whatever it was, I took a computer and I kept that computer because, you know what I'm saying? And so then that was my computer I was doing. Keeping the shit 100, right? I was broke. But all those principles is what you're hearing when you come to this class. Mm-hmm. It's me going through those tiny tweaks at a time, me making hella mistakes. And after a while, starting to the point that you stop tripping on the mistakes. So you made it, when you first make a mistake, you're like, oh, I gotta do this right. And after a while, he'd be like, man, I gotta figure this shit out. I don't give a shit about no goddamn mistakes, right? Like, did it work? Did we get this? You know how many times, you ever heard this old story about Batman, one of the early new versions of Batman, when they built the Batmobile, they said, if you would actually, when you cut the camera, it was held together with tape and hangers. Because they didn't have enough time to figure out how to make that shit work. So they just held together with tape and hangers, right? Do you know how many tape and hanger things I did in the early stages? To the point I got past the tape and hanger and I figured out how to actually build it. But I at least went in that room and said, okay, here's my tape and hangers. What y'all think? You gonna buy it? The tiny tweak process got me here. I'm not advocating for unethical business. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that sometimes you guys are playing the get an A process as opposed to get it started process.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going into our 11th year, it's been something great and something weird happen every year, and the weird shit is what makes you better that next year. Now, when we started with one T-shirt, one design, period, $300 worth of gear, and out the trunk hustling it and flipping the money and doing 2 designs, then doing 3 designs, then having enough designs to set up a table at a gym and sell the designs at a table at a gym. Every weekend, relentlessly not giving up to where, we got a permanent little kiosk at the gym. It was all tiny tweaks. Every stage was tiny tweaks. So, like, it's funny because when I hear sometimes my employees say shit is hard or say that they're overwhelmed or there's not enough time to do this, like, motherfucker, you lying. Because I did it for years by myself, hella times. Because that's the beauty of tiny tweaks. And because we make so many mistakes along the way, so many mistakes. So you thank God that you didn't have big money at the beginning. Thank you for not having me blow up early, because this shit would have been more of a disaster. I'm grateful for the opportunity that, at scale, this would have been bad. So let me tweak this now and grow from it and learn. And so when we doubled in sales or whatever our sales number was the next year, my desire to want to blow the fuck up, that's always going to be there. But when some weird shit happens and you analyze your numbers, you like, if I had blown the fuck up already, it would be bad, because at scale, this isn't it. Thank God I got the learning from this, which allows me to make the tweaks I need for when that time does happen.
Can I just add one other thing? I think what's like the hangover of that, because during that time there was a lot of anchoring small businesses in this idea that their competitor is big businesses. And I think that's a disservice.
A huge disservice.
I hate
that shit.
I think that's a disservice. That's a disservice, because big companies compete with each other very intentionally. They are too big to be competing with small businesses. And that feels to small businesses like, are you saying that my thing is not good? Like, what are you saying about me? Absolutely nothing. I'm suggesting apples and oranges, literally, because the models are different. That's literally why that's not a good thing to do. But the way that small businesses got told, and I think a lot of the ways that the money came in was to sell the funders on the idea that one day these things will become these big things. But that's not that's a model. That's not what small businesses are, and that's not really the majority of what I saw. Right? I wasn't seeing a whole lot of people who were one day going to become big corporate things. And so I think that there's a hangover that now small businesses feel like, well, I can't compete because I don't have the massive budgets of a big business. And for me, it was kind of like, where are you getting that? Like, why is that the anchor of your argument? And it's because that's the way that was the anchor that was put out there socially. So I think on this side of it, a lot of small businesses, a lot of small black founded businesses, I think they're in a bad position in the market because you can't. Commerce isn't about like social theory. So commerce is really specifically about your customer. And one of the things that people ignored, like a really critical thing, is developing an understanding of customer. They actually felt like they didn't need to do that because they were trying to like get to where the big guys was. So it's like their North Star was off. And that 3 degrees that Court was talking about is like none of that was ever going to get you there. But you couldn't tell a small business that, which is the last point I'll make, and I'll be quiet. Anybody who gave small businesses real feedback was seen as the enemy. What you don't believe. And so it was kind of like people who were controlling money were cutting off real voices that really could have been helpful and useful because it seemed to them that those voices were going against when really they were trying to get game to them so that they could still be here and still and leverage what really causes true sustainable growth. But for 4 years, you couldn't they didn't want to talk to the people who could help. And then small businesses also didn't want to hear that. And so that's another hangover effect of like, the relationships that could have been built for small businesses with people who could have been great thought partners to them, they didn't get to develop because they were almost kind of put as like opposition to each other, which isn't true. And then still this ongoing conversation of, well, I'm small and big businesses have this and this is what I don't have, when that's really not the game that they're playing. So,
can we talk about hangover for a second? Mm-hmm. I want to talk about hangover in a different sense, like say the literal sense of hangover. Right. Have anybody had a real hangover out here?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, Josh does all the time. Yeah.
Not in a long time, though. Not a long time.
Yeah.
Hangover. Okay. So you guys all know what hangover feels. Do you know what a hangover feels like? Okay.
You
seem like the type that.
Yeah, you look so innocent. You're like, are you sure?
Innocent. You had two sips.
She said, little boy, just little boy.
So we all know the concept of hangover. That night when you're at the beginning of drinking, seems like fun idea, right? Seems like a fun idea.
Yeah.
You start the drinking. This was a good idea. I'm having a ball. Shit's hella fun. I'm lit. Yeah. I got more confidence. I'll have the courage to maybe talk to some people that I didn't have courage to talk to before. I got confidence to move, to dance, to do things maybe that I was shy to do prior to the drinking. Everything I'm doing now is magnified. It feels hella good. It feels fun. We having a great time. The shit is dope. My problems that I thought about are gone, and my interactions with my people are amazing. This shit is hella fun. Hella fun. I'ma keep drinking. I'ma keep drinking. Take another shot. Come on, one more shot. Take another shot. I'ma keep drinking. A part of you kind of knows that you've reached your limit, but you say, man, fuck it. I'm having such a great time, and this was a good idea up to this point. It can't hurt to keep going. One more shot. One more shot. One more shot. Then there's a point where those shots catch up to you, and you like, damn, I fucked up. I fucked up. But maybe it won't be that bad. Give me some water. Start drinking water. Man, it's too motherfucking late. So at a certain point, the hype cycle of the idea starts to wear down and the dark side of the drinking starts coming. Some people throw up. Some people
Fight.
try to hold back, but some people is in the bathroom hugging on that motherfucking thing. Now, in the moment where you're hugging the toilet and you're throwing up, mentally, what most of the time do you say? I'll never do this again. So do some of y'all talk to God in that moment?
Oh God.
God, just get through this. I'll never do it again. Man, I learned my lesson. This was a bad fucking idea. Man, I'm gonna start a new regiment. I'm gonna go cold turkey. I'm gonna start fresh. I'm gonna start new. All the shit, right? Then some go black, some black out, some pass out, some. Then that next morning, it's not done with your ass. That's when the hangover happens, right? Hangover happens. It's horrible. The headaches. It's horrible. Now, if you are smart, it don't take too many of those situations for you to stop drinking in excess. If you are smart, if you absorb the lesson. If you are not smart, what most of us do is once that hangover headache goes away and then the light comes back in your body and skin and the distance between that time goes further and further, you start to forget about that time. Mm-hmm. It seems less bad. And then what we typically do is we always highlight the good shit that happens and we don't highlight remember that one night we had hella fun that night. Internally, you want to recreate that shit, and soon that bad, fucked up night turns into a highlight that you want to repeat. But you promised, you begged God that you wasn't going to do it no more. Begged him. So, but it's been so long, you kind of forgot about that shit, and now your partners invite you over again. Here we go again. Now, what the fuck does this have to do with what Shabi should just say? This is where I'm going. Is that entrepreneurship, we cannot sit up here, there's three entrepreneurs to sit up here and say that there isn't a level of ego and delusion that has to happen when you start a business. You have to be delusional and have ego. You have to be. Cut out the noise to really believe you can build some shit that could potentially blow up, all that shit. You gotta have ego. You got to have some delusion. The power of delusion is real. Without delusion, we wouldn't have athletes. We wouldn't have entrepreneurs. We wouldn't have most of the shit that we have because everything is driven by the delusion of the masses. Everybody thinking they can make it. So I'm not mad at the entrepreneurs, the black entrepreneurs who went and tried it. It's just in the hangover spot when you said, oh God, I learned from this. Let me make sure I don't ever do this again. What can I learn from this? We not doing this no more. If that's the critical moment, because entrepreneurs is gonna fuck up all the time. They're gonna make bad decisions all the time. They're gonna do overshoot, overestimate, underestimate all the time. That's part of being an entrepreneur. But what makes you dumb is the parts where you crash, the parts where you fuck up, the parts where it's hangover time and you hug in the toilet and you in the prime moment of humility with God is not extracting that lesson. What can I do next time? What can I learn from this? Where did I fuck up? Oh, I was relying on their customers and I didn't get no customers of my own. Oh, I was relying on their traffic, but I didn't get no traffic of my own. Oh, I was just targeting black people with this particular type of fucking hair. And when they didn't show up for me and all the other cultures walked past the aisle, I had nothing for them. I fucked up. So there's learning for that. It's not like that. We're not demonizing what entrepreneurs did, or because you're gonna fuck up. But it's how can we get better this next revision if you don't learn that lesson? Because I don't want to scare you out like, damn, I'm not gonna try shit. No, it's in that moment, that hangover moment, where how much learning did you extract and how much did you execute it on the next run, and how much discipline did you have to not drink that next time?
Josh, go ahead.
Is cold turkey appropriate at some point, though? So I'm in the process of this past year really beating an addiction. And the first thing that I was told to work with was have grace and don't shame yourself. So every time I use, I actually learn instead of shaming myself why I used, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as to why I was doing it, which the tiny tweaks principle works. But at some point that can become enabling, and cold turkey could be used as a motivator to stay clean.
The definition of cold turkey is mean I'm just quitting right now and stopping, right? Stopping everything. Now, to me, the issue is the guilt and the lack of grace. Tiny tweak principle still will come into play with cold turkey. So when you fuck up, say you have a fucking porn addiction, I don't know. Say you have a smoking addiction. You smoke cigarettes. Some people quit cold turkey. I've had a lot of addictions in my life. If I write a book, it's going to be a book about addictions, right? Lots of them. So what I've learned about addictions is, say you do cold turkey, at some point you're going to break. The tiny tweak principle will come into play at that point if you're using it. Tiny tweak says, all right, cool. I went 7 days by doing this. I fucked up today. All or nothing means, I'm a failure. I'm just going to go back to doing it all again. Well, 7 days out of 30, you didn't do it. If you get back on the horse after day 8 and do another 7 days, 2 weeks out of the month, you did well. You only fucked up 2 days. Say you crash again. The goal is tiny tweaks to get back on the horse and try. And don't judge yourself. It's so like this addictions tie into entrepreneurship. It ties into a lot of things. It's the judgment of your failures. And if you have the intention of going after it, the way to win is tiny tweaks.
I think what I would say is that you ever talk to an addict? Say a real addict who's in recovery never say they recovered, right? They tell you they're taking it one day at a time.
Yep.
Right? That's a tiny tweak principle approach. You mean that each day you got to work on what small things. If you feel a temptation coming, as opposed to trying to say, I shouldn't feel none of this stuff no more, and it should always go away. Addict knows that that's something they have to manage for the rest of their life. So they're going to make a lot of subtle adjustments in their life that would be so invisible. Where that person who says, I'm going to move out the city because I was a crackhead in Oakland and I'm going to move to New York, and you just become a crackhead in New York, right? Yeah, and it's like that doesn't change the variables. It's really a lot of small adjustments in 2 weeks in the house. But I'm going to go back to this conversation about the entrepreneurs. I'm not trying to approach the subject of should you not be an entrepreneur and make mistakes. What I'm trying to approach is that when you're an entrepreneur, you got to pay attention to the macro. What's going on in society? Mm-hmm. Don't ever blind yourself to the micro and ignore the macro. So, for example, let's say if Court blows up tomorrow in basketball and he's selling hella jerseys, but couldn't find out that somebody superstar last night went online and said, man, I fucks with Court. Let's say LeBron James was doing a big interview and he had a Court Smith shirt on and just kept showing his logo, right? and he has this instant surge. What does he do with that surge matters. He has to know that this is possibly a hype cycle. I got a short ass window to take advantage of this. I need to run a certain amount of sales, but I need to use this time to market and reposition myself in the market. So when the hype cycle goes away, I still have market positioning. What we saw and what Shabisha's trying to highlight is people got their wave came in, a big ass wave came in. Everybody grabbed their surfboards. Everybody's riding the surfboard. And the cool part when they was riding, they weren't just riding the surfboard and enjoying the surfboard. They was riding the surfboard with an ego that will blow your mind and narcissism that would just take the cake. They was even grandiosity, right? It was like they were riding the surfboard like, yeah, see, y'all don't see how I'm
Louis
doing this
Vuitton
shit.
surfboard.
Yeah, hold on, what?
Louis Vuitton surfboard.
Louis Vuitton surfboards at that, and would not talk to anybody. If you're not on my money, I don't really hear what you got to say, right? So then, I know some companies who got millions. I said, "What's your marketing plan?" Man, I'm popping. I'm here. I'm there. I'm everywhere. Right? I'm savoir-faire, baby. Yes, y'all don't know about savoir-faire. Yes. Anyway, that's an old flair from our days. But the point is this: it was everywhere, right? And you talk to them about marketing until when the business started to die, they said, "What happened?" I said, "When you had the wave, you didn't use that as a positioning opportunity." That's what we're talking about. Waves will come you have the big cultural waves that happen almost every 50 years. So the last one was in the 70s like this.
Yep. Sure
Then you're going to
was.
have individual industry waves that's going to pop off. And if you ever get a wave that comes in and gives you this huge ass boost, the first thing your brain needs to go to is, how do I position myself? Because this is going to go away.
Hype cycle.
It's a hype cycle. As opposed to your ego takes over, and the ego of these individuals blinded them, and they started thinking it was about them and what they were doing. They had the magic sauce, and they were so good at business, and they knew when everybody else was being stupid doing this, I knew this right here was going to make. They didn't realize, no, this was randomness. This was some luck. You have an opportunity, but what you do with that opportunity is going to separate you from everybody else. Otherwise, you're going to have to come off that hill one day, and it's going to be a hard walk of shame. Hard walk of shame. Because at the time, it was, okay, if you climb the hill, there's some cats I know who climb that hill and they just constantly show love. They show more love. So if they come off the hill, nobody's gonna never let them hit the ground again, because the community's gonna be like, well, look, we got opportunities over here for here, and you'll never hit that ground like everybody else. But there's some guys, when that wave comes down, they going straight to the fucking rocks. Boom, 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 boom. Scratched up, cut up, fucked up. Because it's the distortion that happened in their brain. And don't think people didn't reach out to that. That's what Shabisha's saying. Many people try to reach out to them, including my organization. Hey, we should sit down and talk to you about this. Man, I know business. I know business. And then we would say, oh, okay, cool. Let's talk about business. And you totally find out they didn't know business. And it's not that you can't learn. We're not saying you can't learn business. But you can't also think that your value is only tied to that cycle, and because that cycle's not happening, you're no longer valuable. That's not the case. It's just that now you got to learn how to do business. And business is a little bit more complex, a lot more friction, a lot more challenges. And if you stick with it, it's a long-term reward, because once you reach a certain level of maturity in business, you always have value to the market. Always have value to the market. But people who want to, it's almost like, everybody's taking Ozempic.
Yeah, they on that hoe.
Right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's let's say we move to a society where people find a backfire and they get fatter for whatever reason when they come off of it. Not realizing, you still can go work out to the gym. You still can start the process to save yourself. But a lot of people are not going to be wanting to go to the gym because they fell in love with that smooth. I just took this one little pill and I was just zoo. And now you talking about go to the gym. I don't know if I even got I don't even have the bandwidth or the habits or the practices to shift my mind in that direction. And that's my greatest accusation against all these organizations that were supporting black businesses is that you're going to set them up for emotional destruction. Because when they come down, they can't understand why the ground just fell from underneath their feet. I'm doing everything right and the ground is falling. What the fuck do you mean?
Man, that's why this class so fucking necessary. It's so necessary as an entrepreneur. So necessary. To even know the term hype cycle as an entrepreneur, you're fortunate enough to know that term hype cycle. Just that by itself,
Huge.
man. If somebody taught me the word hype cycle in my first business, I'd still be in my first business. Or because when I hit the hype cycle, oh, this high is lasting forever. I'm never coming down. And all you motherfuckers who hated on me and doubted on me, I'm gonna show all you. That is a hard emotion to manage if you never had to manage it. You don't know what the word hype cycle is. When you say I'm gonna blow up, you never think about that whatever blows up eventually falls back down to the ground.
Never crosses your mind.
Don't even cross your mind. So that's why this class, it grounds you, because again, it's not that we don't have ego and in delusion to start the business. It's we teach you that as soon as you get off the ground, the ego has to die, the delusion has to go away, and now you have to think with a stoic mentality and be humble as fuck. And now you are a forever student, and know you in a hype cycle. Know that shit's gonna be over. You know how much game that is by itself? What it can save people? How much time, energy, money it can save people? So that is the realest shit. Is this class is necessary. It ain't no end to it, because you forget more shit than you learn a lot of times, because there's so much game being taught.
Come on, man. Come on. That's what it is. Let's see. I'm gonna skip this because we kind of led into that one. Let's talk about this one. It says unfair comparisons, constantly depressed, sad, overwhelmed, hurt, defeated, hooked. Being hooked. How many of you guys thought about hooked as a psychological flaw or a moral flaw? How many of you guys thought about a psychological flaw or moral flaw? Nobody? Nobody?
For like about 3 years.
Yeah. Anybody else in here? So I thought that's all, like, if I'm hooked, I got to work on myself and I got to process it and kind of tie it into like being a good person or being able to control your decisions. But it's kind of like just a mental flaw. How many of you guys kind of tied it in that area? Like I left it in that area. Thank you. I love you. You look here. I'm going to have you up here because at least somebody honest. Rest I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. Let me say this real quick. Most bad strategies in business are hooked. This hype cycle we just talked about when entrepreneurs was getting a lot of money and they wouldn't listen to their peers. They didn't want to join no peers. They wanted to be isolated. They were hooked, right? A lot of times when we talked about assumptions or defensive thinking, you know, that's a form of being hooked, right? Like that's what hooked is. Hooked is most of the time when you're making when you're using defensive reasoning, horrible assumptions, a lot of times the reason you can't pivot from that idea is because you're hooked. Hooked. Okay, let's show you the hooked of we talked about tiny tweak principles in small businesses doing comparisons that actually cause you damage because you don't understand the game you're playing, right? What's the second word in this sentence? Comparisons. Unfair comparisons. How many black people right now run your businesses trying to right the unfairness? You're hooked. Bad business. How many people, because they bought into, they kind of accepted suppression as a part of the society, even though I don't accept that for myself, fall into a form of depression. How many get hooked because you're so busy, you're overwhelmed? How many of you get hooked because, you know, so back in your past, somebody hurt your feelings and you're trying to use your business to fix your feelings? How many people run a business right now and they're hooked because in the past they got defeated when they thought they should have won? I want you guys to see how often this becomes the number one reason you become a horrible manager, a horrible leader, and you're often hooked in business and bad strategy. It's because one of these things are at the surface. I know a lot of times you guys think we're teaching you this psychology thing, which It serves multiple purposes. Like I try to say, this is not a single. We're not teaching you simple strategies. A lot of these strategies we teach you, if you just kind of like let them soak in and play around with them, you realize they apply in multiple areas of your life. Right? Some of y'all are bad parents because you're hooked. Single mamas, hooked. Daddy's gonna pay child support. Unfair, defeated, hooked. Not taking care of yourself, parent, depressed, sad, overwhelmed, hurt, bad parent, hooked. I think the hook lesson that he taught was really a leadership lesson if I never heard one before. And I think a lot of you guys left it in the category of just psychology. And not realizing that the reason you want to work on the elements of being hooked because it allows you to pivot from bad strategy as fast as possible. You can let shit go so quick it'll make your head spin. I'm talking about things you thought was valuable because you can start to. So, for example, I can say this to you. Like I can say to you, like for example, this is so valuable to me, but if it comes under threat, I can shrink it down to a piece of technology and some plastic, and let that shit go, and move the fuck on, because I know tomorrow holds possibilities for me. I won't get myself hooked to the past. I won't get so mad that, for example, I can lose the battle to win the war. But some of y'all will fight the battle and lose the war because you hooked. Y'all see how this hook shit starts to like expand, and you start to see it like working on yourself first is the beginning of you being sitting at the leadership table of driving the strategy for the company, because you can move off of these hooks. But if you don't understand this concept that he taught last week, he was teaching you how to sit at the table of leadership. This is one of the reasons I'm revisiting this, because I feel like you guys are shrinking how powerful these lessons. So when I sit across from him, I'm like, yo, that was a dope ass lesson. I ain't gonna let you leave here without me telling you that was a dope ass lesson. And I was like, oh, y'all don't know why it's a dope ass lesson. It was an amazing fucking lesson, because last week's class was the work you need to work, some of the basics of the work you need to work on to be the leader in the room. If you're a leader and you hooked, you're about to lead the people to hell. Straight up. That's the only result you're gonna have. You know, yeah, people are like, man, you know, I'm busy. I'm always running. I'm always working. I'm so busy. Sometimes I don't even have time on the weekends to do nothing. I'm just so busy. You're hooked. Remember I told you a long time ago, if you're always busy, your life is out of control. You're victimized by your bad choices. If you're always busy, you don't understand. I was talking to my boy Sean today. Me and Sean work out on Wednesdays. I said, I want you to understand something. Like, I'm able to pull this cord called I'm not fucking with you, or I don't give a fuck. I can pull that cord so fast. Whoop, not fucking with you. I'm out. Right? Whoop, I don't give a fuck. I'm out. He said, damn, how do you do that so fast? I said, because time, attention, money, my three most valuable assets, right? So if you told me, if let's say Cord had $100,000, I said, man, give me that $100,000. I'm gonna invest it for you. Don't worry about it. I got you. I'm gonna invest in some shit got in my head. Cord would say, man, what the fuck? You wanna take my money and invest in some shit? Yeah, man, trust me. I seen this one company. They just started up. They gonna be making balloons and shit. I'm gonna give them about $10,000. My cousin started some shit. I'm gonna give him about $30,000. Now, when Court loses all his money, as you could tell, I was making bad decisions. When Court loses all his money, he don't get to blame me. He got to say, what the fuck was I thinking giving Nana? Because he gave me the $100,000 to make dumbass decisions. Some of y'all do that with your time and attention. You guys will give your time away to dumb shit, give your attention to dumb shit, and then wonder why your life feel like it's out of control. Oh, I'm so busy. Okay, let's go back and look at your investments. No return, loss. Okay, you're in debt. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Maybe you should look at your investments first. Your time and attention investments. Well, why'd you give your time and attention away to all these dumbass sources? You were hooked.
Hey, my daughter hooked me so good. Man, she fucked me up so bad. She said she be trying to get me to buy apps on her iPad and shit all the time. All the time. And so depending on like, no, we're not doing the apps right now. I just bought you this. We're not doing it. So I'm sitting on the couch and she said, I want to show you something. So she pulled this thing up on her iPad and she says, what do you see right here?
Wow.
I said, I see a dragon. She says, you see a dragon, but I see a challenging experience and a happy daughter.
No.
Damn. Gabe.
You gotta respect that. I would have bought it just for the argument.
Shit.
Oh no, you gotta buy it just on the strength.
I
Cold.
said,
God, dog. That's
I'll just press buy like fuck
Yes.
fuck it. I don't know who taught you that shit, but damn it, yeah, I'm buying it.
You had
Oh my
to.
God. That's amazing. That's amazing.
You hooked me.
That's amazing.
And like you can be hooked to say yes just as much as you can be hooked to be shook, to say no, to curse somebody out. You can be hooked to say yes too, and know you hooked and be like, fuck it, here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got me. This one is this one is a cold one, and it shapes our. This is like they say, like, inside you, like, you eat a lot of sugar, you got bacteria in your stomach that's craving sugar. Mm-hmm. You got bacteria that craves coffee, that craves different foods that you eat. So a lot of times we're being controlled by the bacteria in our gut, right? Same thing. This is like the bacteria in our gut. We're being controlled by the hurt, the overwhelm, the defeated, the comparisons, all that shit. It's like that's like bacteria in our gut that's craving those things, that hooks on to any opportunity. It's saying, "Oh man, I need this. I get hooked all the time. If like I'm working every day to distance myself from past thinking, past ways, past environments, things that I'm attracted to. Hood shit is what basically being honest. So like, but if I hear some hood shit or some hood politics going on or some street shit, I want to, what's going on? It's bacteria inside of me that's craving for it. See what I'm saying? And so once we over time defeat the hook, back up off the hook, allow that to be like, yeah, I want to, but nah, it's not good for me, then over time we distance ourselves and that bacteria dies, but it takes time. It takes time. Because I want to build a new identity for myself over time. And I can't if I'm still tied into, or I have bacteria from, and I'm attracted to, or I'm responding to the cravings from past hooks. Any questions on being hooked? Any questions on hooks? Cold one.
Do we need to replace them with something else that is more positive? Because there's always that craving. Or do we need to?
Good question. Good question. Say that again.
Do we need to replace the?
Press the button.
There we go. Do we need to replace those cravings that are kind of negative or taking us down the wrong road with other cravings that are more positive, spiritual, whether it is from sugar, for example, changing from candy to fruit, or as we want to work out more versus just being lazy and laying around? Or
Yes, I say yes and no. Mm-hmm. The yes part of it is this: if you like a similar personality, like I'm a obsession can turn into addiction. It's a addiction can be obsession out of control. So you can also turn addictive energy into an obsession in something positive. That's true. But some things, like for me, I love the fuck out of sugar, but fruit ain't gonna help. Fruit ain't gonna help me. It's just gonna piss me off. You know what I'm saying? To make me think about that this ain't the sugar that I want. So, you know what I'm saying? So over time, it becomes the tiny tweak principle with sugar, because sugar is bad as hell for you. Sugar is bad for you. So if I'm going to go with the tiny tweak principle. If I ate sugar 5 out of 7 days this week, next week I'm shooting for 4. The week after I'm shooting for 3. The week after I'm shooting for 1. And over time, once a month, and then once every 3 months, and over time tweak it to where a year from now, I'm not fucking with sugar if my addiction is that bad. And there's no real alternatives, or at least for me. That shit pissed me off. Sugar-free shit pissed me off and makes me want it. You know what I'm saying? 1 gram of sugar in there, I'm fucking pissed because that 1 gram is just going to ignite the desire for the rest of the grams.
What the rest of them grams?
Where the rest of the grams at? Am I lying?
Yeah. And it does.
But some things are bad for, and you have to distance yourself from over time. But the replacement energy is there.
Let me add another thing to Hooked. Be super cautious. Okay, in this business journey, you're gonna realize, going back to what Court was implying, one, you're flawed. Everybody in this room is flawed. Everybody you ever known is flawed. Everybody you ever heard about is flawed. Everybody that's ever been on this earth has been flawed. Maybe Christians and Muhammad, and for Islam and for Hindus, you might say there are certain people in your religion that's not flawed, but for the rest of us, we're flawed. So
yeah,
outside those 3 people, the rest of us are flawed. And you don't control yourself, completely control yourself. You're always negotiating with self. Self has his own group of responses. If something that you were scared of was to be dropped out of that ceiling right now, you'll see how much you don't control yourself. You could tell yourself, I should sit here and just be calm. But I promise you, everybody's out this room, and some of you guys are not going to be polite, right? You don't control yourself. There's so many areas you don't control yourself. So you got to know when to arm yourself against yourself. And arm yourself against yourself. If you're broke, if you're compromised in any area, hunger, broke, fear, sex, sleep, don't trust your decision making. Because you're more biased towards, because you're hooked, because you're deprived in those areas. And because you're deprived in those areas, you're more likely to make worse decisions. So what you want to do is lob up calling people around you are not suffering from the same thing. Lob up breathing, lob up slowing down, lob up taking time, lob up just saying no until I can process it. Especially if somebody's talking fast. So for example, why does the poorest people buy the most lottery tickets? Why do the most poorest people gamble? Because if you're suffering and you don't have no money, you are so quick to invest money into anybody that says, I can make this go away. Right? This is how people, if you want to look at the people who get burned the most, is the people who are in compromised positions who are trying to make that energy go away. And it's so easy to assume somebody's assumption is going to work in your interest. So you're going to be in the exact same position. I don't give a shit how smart, how well educated you are in. Whenever you are compromised, be very, very cautious against your own personal decision making. Do not, if you're compromised, hungry, broke, sex, sleep, a major injury in your life, anything you want to go away because you feel like it's just, you feel compromised. Be extremely conscious. Be extremely cautious. The carrot effect is so powerful when you don't have something. So, for example, let's say you really wanted to you really wanted a certain camera in your life, really, really bad. Let's say it was one of the top brand cameras that cost like $7,000, and you don't even have $1,000 in the bank. You don't even have $500 in the bank, but you dream of that camera. And somebody comes along and be like, "Yo, man, if you come over to my house, you could use my camera." I promise you, if you touch that camera and you feel like, finally, somebody let me touch this camera, and the person can continue to extend those, well, if you do this, if you do that, if you do this, if you run this errand for me, if you do this, before you know it, you realize the amount of money and time and interest you put into that person ain't worth the camera, but they have power over you because you compromise. And you got to know that at all times. When I see somebody's poking at an area that I'm compromised, I almost automatically say, no, let me get away from you. Because I'm compromised here. I can't trust myself in this space. So this is a funny story. This is early dating my wife. So she says, "Babe, you know where we should move?" This is when Fight Team was still new. I said, "Where?" "We should move to Atlanta." I said, I'm going to leave you. I ain't gonna make it. I said, I can do Oakland. I can't do Atlanta. I'm not that dude. No, I'm compromised. I'll be so hooked. You see me to the strip club, you're like, coming home? Nah, girl, just go and get somebody else. You just ask, and you're like, I would never let a woman come over my house and sit, like come into the bedroom. I would never do that. Like if a woman come out of my bedroom, you know she ain't come out the bedroom doing no decorations. I don't give a shit what she got on. That's all a skit, right? Huh? No, studios, that's my money. I don't mix money with I don't flirt with no women with my money. When it comes, oh yeah, there's no bedrooms too, yeah. But the thing was that I never put myself in certain positions because as a man, as all men, this is a man moment, so excuse me, women, let's talk to this. Men, if you want to be faithful to your woman, you know what the deal is. You know, if a bad one say, let's go hang out, you about to be compromised. And y'all know what hook feels like. Y'all men know what I'm talking about. Well, all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe. Matter of fact, your brain is so, okay, can I talk to men for a second? Because I'm sure men have talked to you women about this. Men, y'all remember when y'all mess with somebody and then when it was over, you said, what the fuck was I thinking? That's called hooked. In business, that happens everywhere in all your life. It's not just with women. It happened in and you remember how your brain was literally lying to you, telling you it was the best decision you was about to ever make in your life, and that that she's so pretty, and even though my woman's at home, this woman here is so amazing, and it's just one time you telling all these dumbass stories, and as soon as you reach that moment of you understand me? You sit there, your brain becomes unhooked and goes, what the fuck are you doing?
Uh-huh.
What were you thinking? And you sitting there in bed going, oh shit. And she's like, hey, we gonna talk tomorrow? You're like, oh man, about tomorrow. Oh. Right? And some of y'all feel so guilty and so screwed up. What do y'all do? Babe, I got to tell you about something I did last night. That's how dangerous hooked is. Hook is it starts to tell you different stories in your mind. The reason you can't play with this area, as soon as you feel compromised, sometimes that's the only space you have to make that decision. But if you start playing with that hook a little bit and going down that path, before you know it, it's a wrap. There's certain women I've met in my life, and they start talking to me, and I'd be like, yo, we're gonna keep it public. We ain't never going nowhere together. We can't even ride in the car together because I know my brain. And my brain, once it gets my brain is cool right in this space here. When it gets here, I'm going all the way, Chuck.
Hooked.
I'm hooked. I'm all the way gone. So I don't even play with this space here. I don't flirt with this. If I'm on the phone with a woman and it starts to play a certain way, I know I'm getting close to my hook space because I'm compromised. I'm out. You got to know this. And this is in business. It's investment, everything. It's not, if you play with investments and you put a little bit of money in that, that's like you just going over a house and having lunch. And you just put a little bit of money into it. Before you know, you're like, I'm about $100,000, $300,000 in. How did I get in this place? You got hooked at $2,000. You didn't know it. So you got to know from day one, before you even get there, your time is the same thing. You start saying yes to somebody before you know it, a whole fucking month, you don't get this person 80 hours, ain't achieved nothing. And they done had you hooked on a dream that they talk about, one day we gonna build this. And the motherfucker's crazy. And you over there talking about, I'm gonna fix them so we can get to this thing that you can just go there by your goddamn self, but you hooked.
Yeah.
I want you guys to say, like, Court was giving y'all so much cold game, because I think we get so corny and act like we just these pure beings that never have sex and never get hungry and never do crazy shit. And like, we all been hooked, because I've been hooked. And in business, the shit gets worse. And so one of the things I learned from my personal life is, when this happened, I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't play certain games with certain people. I shot a model there was only one model I shot in my studio. And she took off her clothes, and I refused to look at her because I was too close to the edge. She said, are you gay? I said, why? She said, because you will not look at me. I said, because you're my money. I don't play like that. I couldn't look at her when I was telling her that. I was like, because you're my money, I can't play like that. Because I know if I looked at her, my brain would be like, but hey man, ain't nobody here tonight, and you gotta keep your body alive. It's like exercising. You gotta get those reps here. And before you know it, hooked. I promise you, it is so crazy because the shit sound when you hooked and that brain start talking to you, it says the dumbest shit, but your brain be like, that's gospel. Oh my God, I've never heard something that fucking brilliant in my life. And then when as soon as you get that moment, you go, what the fuck did I tell myself? You believe that stupid shit? Oh, God damn.
Man, so true.
This happens in money. This happens in business decisions. This happens in businesses. The Democrat Party, wham, I told you I was going to get a little shot in. They're hooked. They're hooked on that old methodology. The public's telling them, we don't fuck with you like that. They're still going, yeah, but you should. Some people just continue to push this some more. Right? Should, kind of the distortion, right? You're just telling somebody they should do something. You know you're hooked. And you're trying to force them to believe that they should do something. As opposed to, if I say, you should want this phone right here, y'all. I'm trying to push you. I'm not saying, what kind of phone do you want? I'm saying, you should want this phone. Do you understand that's being hooked? Because I'm trying to think about what I want to give you, not what you want. That's a cold game. And I see that every day in business, all the time. This is what you should be doing in business. What? This is business. There's a place, somebody told me, a little birdie came to me and talked to me about the Spice Shop in Oakland. In the Spice Shop in Oakland, it says on the wall, if you come in here, make sure, I'm going to paraphrase, you use the proper pronouns for the people who work here. Otherwise, we can't do business with you. You're hooked.
I'm out.
You're hooked.
Fuck them spices.
You hooked. You're hooked. And it's not that I don't have a problem with the way you are. You don't get to dictate the public that comes to your door. And now you're adding now I'm already carrying the burden of paying for your high ass spices because I can go and get some Lowry, which is the ultimate black seasoning, right? You understand me? But instead, look here, y'all ain't getting a Lowry. I'm out of this motherfucking house. Y'all gotta be fucked up. But what is this? But instead, I'm in here trying to find some shit sauce I ain't never heard of that still tastes like salt that ain't Lowry's, right? And you gotta be paying hella money for this high ass non-Lowry's. Like, let's just keep the shit. For white people, I gotta say to you, that's our salt. All right. And so I'm in here paying for this expensive fake ass Lowry salt, which is already a burden on me. And now you gotta make sure I gotta speak to you correctly. You hooked. You hooked on something happened to you that was unfair. You did a comparison somewhere. You're probably depressed. Got your fucking feelings hurt somewhere. Emotionally feel defeated. And you're over here pushing a badass idea. You're hooked. You guys see how dope this shit was he was teaching last week? And I think people kind of took it as, I do get hooked when, I'd be like, I wish a motherfucker would. And I get so mad. I can't see red. I just see red. I got to work on myself. No, you got to learn how the hook thing worked because it's going to hit you in areas that feel good too. It's going to hit you in so many different angles. Most of the times when you're making bad decisions, it is, go back to the word they used last week, it's seductive. Mm-hmm. It's not. And that seduction is the hook.
I got that from Shabisha.
That's right. Bisha was king.
I love I'm going to just double tap on his point. We're humans and we have thresholds and we going to fuck up. So if you know where those limits are, you can know where to run. You can know where to disappear. You can know where I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna get off on this floor right here. That allows us to still navigate in this world and achieve what we need to achieve without having to be perfect or have achieved some level of spirituality to where we're all perfect. We got to know, hey, I can't go over there because if I go over there, I'm gonna end up doing shit that I don't want to do. Court, how come you ain't go over it? Yeah, that just ain't me no more. I can't. Knowing inside, I just can't go over because I'll end up losing my shit. There's trips that they say, hey, we gonna go here. Hey, man, that's cool. Y'all go have fun. I can't. Because I know me and I know what I'll do. And I'm just as ambitious on this side of the line as I am on this side of the line. So you ain't stopping me. So the best thing to do is, I'm gonna get off on this floor, or just keep myself from it. It's like, if you know sugar is bad, why is it in the house? Well, I'm just gonna have self-control. I'm gonna sit there and watch you guys eat it. How does it taste? No, I don't want to see the shit. And I think that point is a beautiful point because it allow us to be human and imperfect while we're achieving and growing.
100%.
Can we had moved on, but a question came in about hype cycle. Can we revisit that, or you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
This is about you guys today.
So the question is about how to leverage a hype cycle when you recognize it. So if you have identified a growing hype cycle, which will of course reach a peak, a tipping point, how are you identifying it and leveraging it if it's within your market?
Okay, so really simple. When a hype cycle hits, you know the surge of growth, right? You can look at your books and be like, wait a minute, last week we made 2,000. Next week we made 300,000. It's time to save and invest. Save and invest. Also build relationships. Also enhance your marketing. All those things. If you see any surge of growth, okay, business is about invest, return, invest, return, invest, return. It's not about rewards, hard work, reward, hard work, reward, hard work. The way you can avoid a hype cycle is you stay with the invest, return. So if I get 300,000, I need to turn my investments up for a return, right? But if I get 300,000 and I go buy me a nice car, buy me a house, or change my lifestyle and buy a nice, has Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all those other brand names I don't know anything about, then I'm doing the hype cycle injustice. So if all those black companies would have said, oh shit, they got me at Target? Oh, I'm about to run me some ads or some billboards, or I'm about to load up the BART station with my shit, or I'm about to go online and create this source that kind of I'm gonna change my website. I'm gonna do all this stuff. So when the hype cycle goes away, you still leave me with this robust business. Mm-hmm. It may not be making as much money, but it's a robust business. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can use this business and still navigate. Fight Team Media didn't get a chance. We started before the hype cycle, so we had already gained our momentum before the hype cycle. So when the hype cycle started, we saw it, and we saw a lot of people like shoot up the ladder. What I experienced, but instead of trying to invest in infrastructure to stabilize their arrival, they move like what Court said. Like it's just gonna keep coming, and I do that later on. Right now, I ain't never had no money like this. I'm about to enjoy myself. I'm about to have these kind of parties. Court used to tell the story of his first business. He was throwing this party. He was moving like a millionaire, as opposed to when you new business and $1 million first come in, you're like, okay. Stay in your mind. I can always go back to this $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. So now 2 or 3 million came in. Let's see how I can make my business a better $200,000 and $300,000 business where when this hype cycle ends, and trust me, my brain literally says this. Even when I was making $6 million, I was like, okay, $6 million came in. All right, I remember when I was only making $20,000 a month. So I ain't that much better than that. I'm gonna stay close to that growth. And so when I went through my first surge of growth, I built so much surrounding infrastructure. What happened when COVID happened? I said I had 2 years of runway. I was not even worried about stuff, right? And even today, I got so many investments that has drawn me money. I have some high risk, I have some low risk investments, right? I just have interest bearing accounts. I got money moving around. I'm investing in other ideas. I'm also investing in hella relationships that says if this relationship dies tomorrow, I got this one I'm working over here. I got this one working over here. We diversified our relationships during the hype cycle. So if this whole industry falls, I still have this, right? I didn't overhire. I brought in contractors, a lot of contractors at first, right? All these things are saying that stop thinking that when you grow fast, it's all about you, right? It's like if a person builds $1 billion company, there's some intelligence there, but a lot of it's luck. You just happen to be building the right company at the right time in the right place, and a lot of things went in your direction. Don't ever get to the point where I'm so smart. Oh my God, I'm so great. And I think the other part is that this whole idea of like, if you work hard, the rewards will come is an egotistical argument. In business, you got to remove that. The reason you have to control and tame that ego is because when you grow, what you'll say is, me working hard doesn't translate. I know a lot of people right now who work hard as fuck. How many times have you seen that Latino dude who's kicking ass in that kitchen to only find out he's damn near barely making minimum wage? So hard work doesn't translate to reward. right? And so if you're thinking about, once you understand that if you gain momentum, invest to stabilize the new foundation you stand on. And if you don't make those investments, so for example, let's say when these coffee companies that blew up, they were black owned. Okay, how do you lock down? I would argue that if you don't lock down and position it correctly, when that shit falls, so will you fall with it. But if you position yourself well and put a great advertisement, position yourself in the community, put yourself as a brand of somebody who cares and giving back, and position yourself wisely. Similar to, you know who does that really well in music? E40. Look at E40 staying part. It's the power. E40 was popping when I was in my 20s, bro.
Yeah.
He's a kid of what I say, huh? And he's still popping. You go to a Warriors game, who's there? Right? When he came out in Oakland the other day, when he came out with what's the dude name? Usher. Usher was here, and he came out. The crowd went crazy. Like, what? And we're from Oakland. We know him. And he came out and just did his song. And we was like, oh, tell me where to go, right? And it's like, one thing E40 does all the time, when a new person is popping, he's like, yo, man, let me get on that with you real quick. Yo, young blood, let's connect on this. He reaches out and builds. He has connections in the music industry. Is crazy, and he's always positioned himself to stay relevant. He's managed his hype cycle. I know other rappers who got the hype, and when the hype went away, they're security guards. No, that's not exaggeration. One Love, the Houdini, one of the members was a security guard. That was one of the most hyped groups of our time. And when I was coming up, like in the 80s, it was like, oh my God, One Love. And then you find out he's a security guard in New York, right? How do you take advantage of the hype cycle? It happens to athletes all the time. They're hype cycles. They get this surge of money. Look at Steph, how Steph is building the foundation underneath himself. Look at LeBron's building the foundation underneath, and a lot of athletes are starting to do that now. They getting the money, but they like invest, move it, set it up as opposed to the previous athletes was like, I got the money, it's gonna keep coming in somehow, because I'm hella tight. And then what was very heartbreaking to them is when their numbers went down, the industry said, we don't know who the hell you are. Let's go on to the next young man. How you doing, Michael? Bobby's like, what about me? Shh. Grown people are talking. Michael!
Right.
That's called managing a hype cycle. So we have examples around us all the time. Otherwise, you're on the next unsung. Unsung is people who didn't take care of the hype cycle. Man, them OJs was singing, and then what's name started doing cocaine. This one died off, and this other one realized he got robbed by the record company. Oh my God! But you know what? I'm still doing local shows. You used to be my girl. Okay, anyway.
That's my song too.
That's horrible.
But that's the reality. That's why it's so important. Like Court was saying, this class is giving us a chance to learn these principles at a higher scale. Let me see which one. Okay, let me do this. I think I do this one. Maybe the second one, but probably this will be the last one for the night. So, in one of the previous last two classes, I asked the question, "Can you fix the government?" And it became a cool philosophical discussion, but I don't think you understood how dope that question was. So I want to extend that question a little bit further. And I was really asking is, can you fix a constant? Something that's constantly moving and interacting and engaging, can you fix it? But why, if you can't, then why do many of us spend most of our time trying to fix it? Right? Like when you hear, oh, the government's fucked up. Okay, and tell me what else is not fucked up. My relationship is rough. Okay, that's called relationships. My business has got some rough ups and downs. It's called business, people. Why are you trying to fix a constant? But think about how many people run game on you. Like, for example, how many parenting books came out about being a great parent? Do you understand that parents can't be fixed? You can't fix a parent. You can do better. You can improve. You can impact. But I can't fix you. Can't make you perfect. If you read the book that we put out by Malcolm Gladwell, and he told the story of the monolithic town. I don't know if you guys got to that part. And in the monolithic town, he got up to everybody to a point where everybody was behaving at a certain level. But the monolithic town, because it became so monolithic, they lacked diversity, which diversity And your flaws, your behavior, inconsistencies, some of them are healthy traits, right? But the town became so monolithic where all the kids were performing at a certain level. Every neighborhood was super clean. Everybody maintained a certain kind of way. And one kid committed suicide, and hella kids started committing suicide right behind that kid. Because what happened is they had a one way of thinking, and it became so quickly contagious, it started killing off hella kids. And then people started realizing how much they hated their city because there was no variation. They didn't have the hood dude on the corner who played a little bit of music loud sometimes. They didn't have the blue collar worker over here. They didn't have the mid-level achiever to go next to the high-level achiever, right? When you try to fix things and narrow that category, you also destroy things. You should always be a token white dude. That's it. Don't change. Our token's white, Jewish white boy. But the point is this, but you're still a token. The thing is, and so the reality is that what you want to do is be cautious about this whole idea of fixing, because it's a do you realize most of social media is about fixing something? Oh, he has something to say about what she said. He needs to fix what she had to say. You need to fix how you speak to people. You need to fix how you think about this. You need to fix this technology. You need to fix. In a constant world, you can never completely fix anything. You can make things better. So, for example, let's say you guys have a beautiful car outdoors. I don't give a shit what car you have. You can name any brand you want to. And it might be the perfect car to you. Keep driving it. Keep driving it. And as it continues to engage all the constants and all the variations, all the randomness, you're going to see all the imperfections your car actually possesses. Even when cars improve on the car that you have right now, 5 years from now, you'll be like, this old piece of shit. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful 5 years ago. Today it's a piece of shit. Because what happens, you had a distortion, you had a perfect vehicle. There was never a perfect vehicle. When you meet a woman in your life, or you meet a man for the women in the room, or the women online, that perfect person is absolutely perfect. That's a distortion that you're projecting. To only when the distortion finally comes down, you see the imperfection go, this is not for me. Now you're 40 years of age and single as fuck. Overweight, ain't nobody checking for you, because guess what? Your whole life has been about fixing shit. You don't realize that what rises out of imperfection is greatness. Mm-hmm. Everybody in this room is imperfect. And somebody in this room is about to be great as shit. But yet, you're trying to fix shit and you're being manipulated that's a thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of you guys participate. A lot of you guys are pissed off about the government because you want to fix government. Yeah, really? You want to fix it, huh? Mm-hmm. With who? With what? Who's going to fix it? Tell me a time when it was fixed. Tell me a time when any government in the history of the human existence was fixed. Tell me a time when African people's life was so perfect it was fixed. The other day, somebody says, I said, I don't want to use the word we're going to change the black community. I want to say we want to impact the black community. Mm-hmm. Daniel says, why impact versus change? Because change implies I know where we're going. See, I have a snapshot of what I think I want based upon what I lived. I don't have a snapshot for those who are being born today of what they want. And who's to say that even though I do understand as a human being that if you want reality, to build a healthy relationship with reality, you should obtain power. Power gives you a relationship with reality. Don't mean you control it, but you have a better relationship with it. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you're able to project your will into reality, right? So I get that part. But what that looks like for the next group of generation of people, because we're all imperfect, and things can change tomorrow behind one event. One event can flip the numbers around. Right? That's even hitting 1960. White people are over 90% of American population. Mm. Today, 55% of the population. What happened? Did y'all see that big revolution happen? No, you didn't. But as you fight for this, shit's changing. My point is that I'm not arguing inferior superiority, the genocide of anybody. I'm not into any of that shit. I'm arguing that change is a constant. And because change is a constant, the word fix is a distortion. Mm. And when you start spending money to fix shit all the time, are you upset with your relationship, your business, your coworkers, your employees? It's not necessarily a good strategy. It has to be, are they outside the space of tolerance? Okay, so for example, let's say I hire Court. He's off the streets. I just hired Court for the first time. And I'm training through the process. And he doesn't do something right, I'm gonna fix him. But when you use the word fix, you gotta ask yourself, is it that simple? No, it's not that simple. It is by no means. What is my environment communicating to him? What is our group communicating to him? What kind of training? How much am I investing? So there's this podcast I'm gonna give you guys. I'm gonna give you all the dopest service-based training for next month, because we're not gonna be here next week. And the dude said, NFL play a game once a week, but they train 6 days a week. Many people who run a business only train once, expect the person to be a perfect player moving forward, right? Meaning that, how are you training him once? You're thinking, I'm gonna fix him. Let's say you finally get him to do it right, and then he starts to burn your profits down the road. Is it his fault, or is it your fixed mentality that caused that problem? Because you think, since I got him to do it right one time, he should be able to do it right moving forward. Now realizing when you run a company, you have to always train your employees, because things are in constant, your business is constantly changing. Your business will never be fixed, nor will your employees, nor will you. If you're not growing all the time, if you're not training your employees all the time, you're not adjusting your business all the time, you're gonna kill your business. You cannot exist in a constant. You can't fix your business, build a perfect business, and it's going to run through all the constants. It's going to be constantly tweaked, including you. But this fix is so burned into our deep psyche, very similar to how I was listening to Malcolm Gladwell on revisionist history, and he's talking about how we grew up, there was changes in the 1600s. We grew up listening to, since the 1600s, poetic justice fairy tales, where the good always win, good conquers bad, bad is always bad. That's not human at all. But if you watch social justice, it was using poetic justice fairy tales as the undercurrent premise of their ideas. So have you noticed how social justice wants you to say, hey, show tolerance for my differences, but if you say something I don't like, I want to kill your career instantly. Like, what? Right? Like, you want me to show you tolerance, but you want to cancel me? That's not, you don't even get what the fuck you asked for, right? I believe in diversity. So if you think of anything that you say anything way that we don't say it, I don't want to include you in our group. What? I believe in diversity. There's white people and then people of color and the rest of you guys just all the one people. Fuck the diversity. I don't believe in it, but I believe in diversity. What? The reality is that people who come along and claim they're going to fix you or fix the community or fix the race, why y'all think I didn't like Umar Johnson? It wasn't because of him as a black man. I don't really have any beef with him at all as a black man. I don't like this whole idea of once we do this, we're going to be fixed. We're in a constant, people. If you want black community, you can improve the black community, but in improving the black community, you have to put in governance to keep the constantly work on all the shifts. One of the biggest purposes of people government is to manage all the changes and shifts come from population growth, changes in environment, changes in relationships, changes in belief systems. You got to manage that and keep America, right? Because America can't fix itself. It's not a thing. But those of you who were trying to say, once I get here, my career, I'm going to fix my life. Once I get rich, I'm going to fix my life. Once my business is running this way, it's going to fix my business. No, you have new problems. That's all. Problems you didn't know they exist before because you was too broke to see those problems. You don't have $1 million problems. If you have $1 million problems, you don't know what $10 million problems look like. Your $10 million, you don't know what $50 million problems look like. And so you say, once I get to 50 million, it's going to make everything go away. No, you have new problems. Require new thinking to solve. Otherwise, you get knocked down to no million problems. Right? And so you can't fix this game. When you're in constant, there is no fix. It's a continuum of adjustments. So for you to be like, I graduate, watch this. I'm going to show you another fixed concept. I went to Harvard, got this degree.
Yeah.
I'm fixed.
Yeah.
No, the fuck you not.
That's real.
If you're not still reading and studying all the time, you're literally, your fixed idea is fucking you over. If I get this degree, I'm gonna be fixed, and that will qualify me. And then motherfucking corporations sell you, they recycle a lie back to you by saying, hey, since you have this degree, you're fixed, and that's why we're gonna hire you, because you're fixed already. You're not. This is how you get fooled into thinking that if I just achieve A, B, or C, I'm fixed, and because I'm fixed, the world will come to me. But you're breaking the basic rule, which is you can't fix things that are inconstant.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I was you remember that show, "Fix My Life" by Ivan?
Jan Van Zandt.
I used to date a girl who was on that show. I didn't know she was on the show until later.
I understand, player. I didn't know she was one of them Raiders or something.
It just reminded me of that, like, Fix My Life, right? That show. And so when me and her started dating, she started spiraling, just doing crazy shit. And so just got hooked on drugs, and just to where I distanced myself from her. But I just watched her fall apart. I watched her get hooked on drugs. I watched her get fired. She was a nurse. I watched her get fired from her job and just spiral. So I'm asking around, like, who knows this person? Like, I want to get this person help. Even though I ain't fucking with her no more, I want to get this person help. And so they're like, well, she didn't really have her family's really, she don't really have a family here, but she was on this show called Fix My Life. I said, what? I looked the show up. So I sent Yvonne, whatever, I can't ever say her name. I sent her a long email. Hey, this is Courtney, blah, blah, blah. Here's the situation. She really needs you. So she replies back to me. Please give me all of her number, phone, everything. Cool. Sent her number for them to communicate. This woman ended up passing away. And because it reminded me, like, damn, like, can't nobody fix you. You can't even fix yourself, let alone somebody else fix you. Let alone think you can fix somebody. We get caught in that sometimes. We get caught from the books we read, the things that we believe are possible for us. But think about the shit that you've been trying to get rid of, fix, change, stop doing, that you've been struggling with your whole fucking life. The one thing. Now imagine trying to fix somebody. We can't do it. I think it's an unfair puzzle that he threw out at y'all, but it's how our brains are wired to think that we can. And the dope part about it is can you fix a constant? That's
crazy.
So think about it. Can you fix a constant that's constantly moving? So even if you were to, like, stick your like try to fix that, it's in the past. I'm different over here now. Times change. So it's an impossible equation. All we can do is try to expand and grow. That's all we can do.
Think about this. How many people you heard say, I'm going to go to the gym, lose some weight? As if the weight represents the fix. To only realize that when you get there, you got to keep it off, right? So that means if you join the gym, you want to say you're joining forever. You're not joining for, okay, let me show you the reverse. Let's flip it the opposite. Let's use the offensive thinking now. You have a client hires you to help them fix a problem, and you think that's the mission. Is that really the mission? Or is it really the mission of partnership, because you never fix their problems? Right? But some of you guys will literally sign the contract and then frame the whole relationship around, once we arrive at this problem, and you put all your energy into this problem, not realizing you should be building a relationship, because the client will always have problems. I want you guys to see how this fix also shortens the game you plan in your relationships, because you're moving in relationships like as if there's a fixing point, not realizing that once they fix that, then what? And then what? And then what? And then what? Right? Once you say, I'm going to do this new thing to change my life, You're not signing up just to run a short run with it. Like, for instance, let's say I'm going to start reading to change my life. You know, you can't read a few books and you're done.
No. No.
You got to get into reading for the rest of your life until you no longer need to read again, which just mean that we're dropping that last piece of dirt on your grave.
Man.
Like, literally, all this shit we talking about in life, it's changing your lifestyle for constant improvement. And in the journey, the person beneath you will say, you have a perfect life. My family does this sometimes. You have a perfect life. Tells me, my Shakir, y'all lives are perfect. Me and Shakir, all we can see is all the problems in front of us. That's all we see. It's like, okay, I got to work on this. God damn. And we turn around and we look at you like, man, you don't know the fuck you talking about. And we get offended sometimes. Like, if they only saw the fuck what we see, right? But they can't. Just like you can't see what the billionaires see. What Mark Zuckerberg's going through, some of y'all would have a heart attack if y'all sat in the shoes for one day. You're like, I can't take this. It's too much. Man. Now, he or she has grown into that level of ownership. But what happens is they know they're in constant. So even when there's calm moments and things are chill and there's no stress, you training for the next battle because you know it's coming.
Man. Bro, the last 2 months, I walk into the office, sit down, fucked up shit. Here's some more fucked up shit. This is what happened. Every morning. It like if you weak, it will make you be like, man, fuck this shit. Like, but that's what business is sometimes. Like, perfection is an illusion, and if you think something looks perfect on the outside, pull the hood up. Pull the hood up first. Like, and here's the other thing: it's no matter how much we improve ourselves, how much we read, how much we grow, and even how much we change, that old version of you is just sitting right here.
Oh, it's talking to you.
Wait, well, you turned your head?
Man, come on.
No. It just waiting for you to slip up, fuck up, get lax, be lazy. So, because that version of you that you have ingrained inside of you that you want to change, you've worked your whole life to build it. Now you want to change. And even if you nudge it back enough for you to make good decisions, it's still right here. It ain't going nowhere. So that's why till your grave, till you croak, till it's over, you got to constantly be reading and improving. If your weight is the issue or being in good health is the issue, you can't never get there. It's now you married to it. You married to improvement. You married to good health. You married to it till it's over. There's no resting place. And so how the hell? No arrival. So how the hell are you going to think about changing somebody else? Don't work.
And it's like, it's what I'm noticing with people too is that now stay with me. I'm going to kind of twist it a little bit more because I try to give you these ideas that are really rich, but if you plant the seed, they'll grow into like trees you can't even imagine. Let's say you feel the world it should be fixed and it's imperfect. Well, if you're displeased with the world, how good is your ability to see opportunities? That good, right? Mm-hmm. When you think people should be a certain, which is going to lead into should. Because you're like, people should act like this. People should be like this. People should think like this. People should eat like this. Matter of fact, you get mad when people come and tell you something you think they should have told you because they should have told you this. Because if they were fixed, they would have said it like this. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So because the world model is not being fixed, you're almost naturally going to be, let's go back a couple slides. Hold on a second. I had a lot of slides I was going to get into, but I don't know if I'm going to cover them all. Defeated. Mm-hmm. Once you defeat it, because the world ain't working the way it's supposed to, pay attention to your hooks. Pay attention to your lack of drive. Pay attention to your disgust. Pay attention to your gossiping. Pay attention to your judgment behavior. Pay attention to your personal anger. All that is because you think things are supposed to be fixed. I have more empathy, tolerance, and compassion because I accept the imperfections. When you don't accept the imperfections, you almost don't like people no more. You're almost isolated by yourself because these people just don't get it. Stupid. In business or in building, if you want to build a community solution, community activists will tell you this. activists don't completely ever agree. Like, I might say Egypt, you might say fuck Egypt, it's about the Mau Mau. Somebody might say, well, it's about the Moors. And somebody might say, nah, fuck all that shit, it's about Marcus Garvey. Somebody, nah, fuck all that, it's Malcolm X. Somebody, fuck that, it's Martin Luther King. Although we're going for the same goal, which is black empowerment. But because we need a perfect synchronization of our ideas and beliefs, I can't work with you because I just argue with you too much. As opposed to, let me step back and see where you're going. All right, we don't agree. I don't believe in 50% of your values, but our collaboration means a boost in both of our intent. You will never get that if you're focusing on fix. Your collaboration skills will suck. Your partnerships will suck. Your market positioning means that I may have to do a project with Shabisha, even though I don't fuck with her like that. I don't even like the way she get down, but it's smart for me to partner with her because it allows the community to see me position myself differently so I can move and have access to resources I didn't have access to, or access to opportunity, or access to exposure, or even a partnership on something I'm already vested in, right? So I need to collaborate with her. But if I feel she's so broken, I won't even entertain that conversation because she has to be fixed for me to work with her. Realize I done turned everybody into this whole world into a pure world that can never exist. And if you ever built pureness that you suggested in your fixed brain, you created fragility. Meaning that whatever you build will break. It's gonna be fragile as all outdoors because for something to be robust, it needs a certain degree of diversity. A certain degree of diversity must exist. Meaning that it won't be fixed. Imperfections is part of the game.
So good.
When my daughter makes a mistake, I tell her. Like the other day, my daughter says, so my daughter, she was woken up in the morning by her mother. Mind you, my daughter's 6. She says, why are you always destroying my life? You're destroying my dreams. You're waking me up. Why are you always disturbing me like this? Because you got to go to school, right? Mind you. So I called my daughter and said, hey, come take a walk with your daddy real quick. I said, so you know every night how it's time to go to bed and you got every excuse and you're pushing bedtime back an hour and a half, 2 hours? I said, she says, yeah. I said, then on the other side, you didn't sleep enough hours because you decided to stay up late? She said, yeah, but then you attack your mama for the decision you make? She says, yeah. I said, so this thing called being a human being is, everything's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to go to bed on time. And so from this point on, if you want your life to change, you got to go to bed on time, right? So this morning she gets up, went to bed on time. She was a beautiful person, absolutely beautiful person. If y'all know my daughter, she didn't let me lose my point because I'm just thinking about how my she's a fighter. She got all my fight. And the cool point about her is that because I explain why to my daughter, she sees me as her hero because I will always tell her why. I don't just say, do this because I say so. I'm like, hey, let me talk to you about something. And I'll take her for walks. But okay, this is what she said. So she said to me in the conversation, she said, yeah, I guess I wasn't being a good girl. And I said, daughter, it never has anything to do with you being a good girl, ever. You're a human, you make mistakes. It's about learning as an adult. Learning as a child to one day become a stronger adult. And you're gonna be doing this until you die because daddy goes to the same thing. You see how I didn't try to imply a fixed idea to my child? I told my child, you're on a continuum of learning from your mistakes, not because you didn't do this, you were bad, or you didn't do good, or you failed. Those are all fixed concepts that don't exist in the real fucking world. There's no such thing. You're in a continuum. Even when you fail, you're on a path of discovery. So now I'm going to tell you failure is a fixed point of bad? No, that's that poetic justice fairy tale working itself out in our brain. I used to hate so much all the time when I used to tell women, when you did this with a man, you live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. Fixed. Are you fucking serious? And they taught our daughters. I won't let my daughter watch that shit. She'd be like, I let my daughter listen to a poll podcast while you can't listen to that shit. She'd look at me like, she got it. In the end, we had a long conversation. Mm-hmm. But she's like, put on some music, Dad. I said, no, I'm going to put on something else today. Click. And my daughter's like, oh, is that why you won't let me watch these certain shows? Yeah, because you don't meet a handsome prince. He buys you flowers, take you out for dinner, and then your brain goes in, and you know what? If he gives me a ring, we're gonna live happily ever after. That's why I want to get married. I'm in my 30s, because this happens to women in their 30s really bad. I must get 30. I must get married, because otherwise I will never be happily ever after. You think that ring's gonna fix you? It's not a fixed point, baby. Marriage is not a fixed point.
Mm-mm.
Marriage is the beginning of new problems.
Mm-hmm.
You just signed up for some new shit.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know that there's no man or woman you're gonna find. I'm not saying you got to improve your choices. I'm not saying go out there and get the girl on crack and be like, girl, I'm gonna make you better because I can tell you got a booty. Even though you're on crack, I'm gonna make you somebody. I'm not suggesting that. Bad idea, Josh. Bad idea. That ain't the way you get a black woman. That's not how you do it, right?
It's too late.
It's too late. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is
did y'all find
you
on
make the best possible choice, but the best possible choice just means that hopefully this person can work with you to go through those problems really, really well. You want to say?
I want to go back to the slide about you can't fix a constant, please.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I've been sitting here thinking, okay, 90% to 55% in my lifetime, sort of. So I can feel that there is a difference, especially if you live in the Bay Area. You can feel a lot of other cultural groups, a lot of other ethnic groups starting to have a stronger presence. But that 90 to 55 is really strong. And the question I kept asking myself was like, when it was at 90%, although you could say that white people controlled things, it also meant that I had, this is gonna sound crazy. The question I'm asking myself is, well, damn, what has always been a controlled thing that I could depend on that now, because they're 55%, there's a bigger gap that I need to fill. Like, where have I just been able to like, oh, y'all do that, or somebody else does that, and now that they are less of that, it feels different. So, like, for instance,
You talk about slavery. They like having slave labor and then going to, well, now you got to, she's rough.
that, or just like our experiences civically, our experiences in our cities, where it was.
So let me share this real quick. Oh, that's so. Okay, I hate school American history, because real American history is ugly and dirty.
Right.
Even indigenous people, it ain't what you think it is.
Correct.
It's rough. It's rough. Like, yeah, they killed the indigenous people, but they weren't like super moral, just sitting around smoking peace pipes. They were smoking motherfuckers' lives. You used to get smoked by them. They weren't playing. They even had their own prisons. They were not playing. Okay. White people only had a small. This is what you're actually highlighting is the zeitgeist of white culture. The zeitgeist, which is when the story outlives the reality of a culture.
Yeah.
White people has this zeitgeist that they come from. Make America great again. Things were great. Things were popping. Even during the time they said it was great, it was not great.
Right.
It was not at all great. The average middle class American in the 50s that you saw pictures of, first of all, those were advertisement pictures.
Correct.
The real people, the average middle class in America, white people, were only making, in today's money, $33,000 a year, in today's money, right? They drove used cars, used clothes, and they lived in a 700 square foot house. They had a small ass closet that you would call a trap. like that's where I'm keeping this shit 100 real so you can understand like the story. White people in the early 1900s was so poor. They were poor with no laws, no rights. America was pretty much an aristocracy until like around early 1900s, right? Then they go into World War I, heavy devastation. All the towns of young men cleared out. Imagine you got your baby boy. This is my boy. I love him. They gotta go. They may never come back home again, right? Then they say, you know what? No more wars like this. And by the way, you know who signed the treaty that said we never should do a war like this again? Japan and Germany in the World War I. The ones who got off on World War II was killing everybody. They signed the treaty. Once again, you got to understand that there's this fine line between peaceful people and mean people. That line flips back and forth all the time in human history, right? So the people was like, oh, they're victims, and oh my God, I feel sorry for these groups of people. If you don't pay attention, those people become tyrants, and these people become the victims, right? So that's why it's very dangerous to play this victim exchange game. But anyway, so 1940 shit was fucked up, and then No, you had the Depression. She was fucked up in the 1920s. Go back in the war. Rosie Riveter, all this shit. Shit's fucked up. White people are still not doing so well, right? White boys get back from the war. Black people got jobs because that's all the labor was left here because black people can go to the army, so we got jobs, right? Which is kind of crazy, right? America built a relationship with the world after the war that allowed them to be manufacturers of products and goods and to be the leading innovator of the world. So for a short window, I'm talking about a short ass window, things was good for everybody. It was an American hype cycle. Mm-hmm. In the 70s, the hype cycle started to deteriorate. 80s, it was almost gone. When if you listen to Reagan's early run, he was pretty much saying we run out of money. All this shit we had in the past is over, baby. We got to think about America as a whole different game we playing, right? Now add to that, so white people ain't really had this so-called long-ass run, and they came from a fucked up aristocracy was really fucked up. Like, y'all don't like shit as fair and fair right now, but if you were able to dig a white person up from like 1885, they would tell you, oh, you motherfuckers got it great. Y'all living like billionaires in this motherfucker, and you live in 6-9 How the fuck y'all come up like this, right? We don't really realize. So the story, it got us fucked up.
Yeah.
But the reality is white folks ain't really never had it like that. And that's the story that constantly, white people have taken so many large hits. It's crazy. But what happens is the modern day social justice story is making it seem like, oh, white people just been popping and living. And it's so crazy that a single impotent prejudiced white man still know he has enough power to call you an N-word and unravel you, and you got all the power. That shit's crazy. Because of stories and assumptions and distortions in our head. So at the end of the day, white people are, even Make America Great Again is a zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. Just like Cowboys is a zeitgeist, Black Panthers is a zeitgeist. These are stories that we tell, that the stories are greater than the people that actually did the work. Mm-hmm. And this is what human beings do all the time. You look at human history, we always tell these stories of this great society, but when you actually go and put the data on that great society, you realize, there's only 400,000 people. Y'all made it sound like it was a whole goddamn continent. And they only did this, right? Like, you'll realize there's more stories that sound so grandiose, and then the movies change the whole meaning in our face. And that's why we'll reference the movie as we think about the Black Panthers of the 60s. We really think about the movie we saw. We're not thinking about the real Black Panther, because none of us read any of the books and any of the data. So what I'm trying to argue is that, yes, they were 90%, but they were still trying to stabilize themselves. And at the time, socialism was battling capitalism, and communism was socialism, capitalism, and communism was battling for a position. This is why Hoover was a beast, because he was trying to drive capitalism. And one of the communism tools was to infiltrate the black community and get us to push their issues into America to disrupt capitalism. Mm-hmm. So the reason Martin Luther King was often identified with communism, because if you read communism principles and you read Martin Luther King, they were not that far apart. Mm-hmm. Right? All this shit, if you don't know it and you don't know the real history and you live by the story, then you start thinking white people are so privileged and we're not. That shit is so goddamn new. That shit is so goddamn new. And because it's new, it's the past. It's not it doesn't have to be the future. You know how white people got Palo Alto. Let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what the fuck it is. It's Palo Alto, right? They got Walnut Creek. Mm-hmm. Let's call it what it is, right? Do y'all know the hood is in the most successful, richest part of the lands in most of the country? Mm-hmm. Do you realize that Oakland, do you realize where Oakland's positioned? If black folks' mindset changed in Oakland when we had it, that shit could have been popping. But because you stuck in, let me go back to that hook thing, because this, I'm sure you how cold this is, because black people get hooked all the fucking time. We do comparisons. Mm-hmm. Oh, y'all got Walnut Creek, we just got Oakland. No, you got Oakland, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. You got water and shit. You buy San Francisco and shit. Excellent transportation and shit. Down the street from San Jose and San Francisco and shit. Prime real estate and shit. Yeah. Atlanta. Remember how Atlanta was popping? Mm-hmm. Go look at Atlanta today. It's slowly deteriorating. It's not because Atlanta's deteriorating. It's here. Mm-hmm. And so until we start having a different conversation, we can't keep running this zeitgeist, outdated, fake-ass script and think we're going to change the future. We got to get comfortable with, like, okay, let me look at the world the way it really is. Damn, you mean this many South Americans was getting killed? This many Mexicans was getting killed? This many white people was getting killed? This many Asian people were being killed? This many Jewish people were being killed? Imagine being Jewish, y'all. Just fuck with me for 1 second. Imagine if somebody throw all black people in a prison. War gets down. The war is over. And the world says, I don't want them motherfuckers. Even the homes you came from. We don't want these motherfuckers. And the war is over and they leave you in prison for 2 more years. Till they can find a place to put you because nobody wants to fuck with you. The whole world tells you we don't want to fuck with you. I just want y'all to just process that shit. Like, I'm not saying that you don't want to ever try to rank past oppression. That's a bad thing to do as a human being. I'm saying to you that when you look at human history, you'll see some shit in every culture. Look at Chinese in this country in the early days. It was nasty. Look at Chinese in China and look at some of their major massacres. You'd be like, what the fuck? Right? And you can't tell the mama who watched her son get massacred, yours ain't as bad as mine. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and psychologically, and then also too, based upon the book I just gave you guys, it only takes 25% of the community to have a certain experience for the whole community to suffer. So what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that you got to learn history accurately to be able to navigate this imperfection. Otherwise, you're frustrated, or you feel unfair, or you feel defeated, or you feel all these hooked emotions when really it's your relationship to the zeitgeist got you fucked up. That's why I gave you this book to show you how to think macro, because many of you guys are trying to build a business in a micro mindset and missing the macro equation and wonder why I move different than you because I'm looking at the macro equation. I'm no different. I'm the same person. I got the same C you got in class, Sydney. You might got an F, I got a C, whatever. It's a slight difference. We don't get into comparisons. Point is this. Well, but the thing is, I got the same C you got. But the difference is that I have multiple lenses and I'm looking at multiple versions of reality and going, okay, I don't like what this dude just said, but in a bigger picture of anything, it doesn't mean anything. If I told you, City, fuck you, dude. Do you realize that we both going to die and the next generation won't even know that conversation existed? So why does it mean so much to you? Like, it literally doesn't go any further. It literally is going to die to the point, if me and Scott argued right now in front of everybody, the next generation be like, it's not even recorded. No one cares. So sometimes with certain arguments, I'm like, do you really care, Nana? Nah, I don't care. Fuck it. I don't care. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Listen, tunnel closes at 10 tonight. Love everybody. hey, those of you at home, there's no class next week. I got some dope ass homework coming out. Peace, hair grease, and juice out.